So today, Jim Jordan was removed as the GOP nominee for House Speaker, which I think is fucking stupid. But I don't know. I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I saw that Brian Donalds is might be running, so I don't know. They're going to probably have a vote on Monday, but I don't know exactly what's going to happen there. Maybe McCarthy will run again. I don't know. It it's all up in the air right now. So yeah, we're gonna look at. Oh, this is from the Hill. Floodgates open. Here's who's running for Speaker as GOP seeks third nominee. Oh. The field of those vying to be House GOP third nominee for Speaker is quickly becoming crowded after the conference voted on Friday today to drop House Judiciary Committee Chairman Jim Jordan. The conference pushed Jordan aside in a secret ballot internal vote shortly after he lost a third House floor vote on Friday. Before Jordan, House Majority White Steve Scalise narrowly won the nomination, but withdrew his name a day later after supporters of Jordan refused to support him. Scalise said on Tuesday that he would not be seeking the nomination again. After two failed nominees, the floodgates have opened with potential successors to former Speaker Kevin McCarthy jockeying for the role. The House Republicans are set to meet behind closed doors for the candidate forum on Monday at 6:30 p.m. Oh, so there won't be a vote on 6:30 on Monday. Then we'll move to an internal nomination election on Tuesday at 9 a.m. The deadline for candidates to file their candidacy is on Sunday at noon. Here's who's running for the position and who is considering it. House Minority. Tom Emmer. I don't know who he is. Emmer is making calls for running Speaker, a source familiar tells The Hill, and is seeking the position. He will likely emerge as a frontrunner once his hat is officially in the ring. The majority whip, who previously served as chairman of National Republican Congressional Committee, would be the highest ranked lawmaker for jockey for the position. He has endured leadership race in the past, a fact that could help him prevail this time around. Kevin Heron. I mean, what the fuck? Heron, the chairman of Republican Study Committee, announced his bid for Speaker while walking out of closed doors conference meeting in which GOP lawmakers voted to dump Jordan. Heron considered running after Kirky's ouster towards the few weeks after he thinks he is, conference. It's pretty obvious that our delegation is looking at something to be different than what we've seen so far. I bring different perspective than possibly anyone else that could be running in this race, he told reporters when asked why he is running. People want to be heard, they want to be valued, And I think that's what you're seeing right now. He added, there's a lot of historical relationships that some are not going to ever be able to work around. And I don't have those negatives out there. Brian Donalds, yeah, that's the one who I saw who was running. I don't presence in conservative media is one of the only 4 black Republicans in the House. He has received votes for speakership from GOP defectors both during McCarthy's 15th ballot-seeking race in January, during Jordan's 3 ballots this week. Holy crap, there is a lot of them. I wonder who's going to get it.
You're going to have to get used to asking questions that might make you a little bit uncomfortable.
I've got new reporting this morning on Jim Jordan's quickly narrowing path to the speakership. A senior Republican House member tells me he has spoken to 20 Republicans who are vowing to block Jordan if he forces a vote on Tuesday. He can only afford to lose 4. A big reason why Republicans don't want to reward the hardliners who ousted Kevin McCarthy and sunk Steve Scalise. This member told me we can't reward this behavior. He said, we can't let a small group be dictators. But another source familiar with the matter says Jordan that's what's fucking going on. With his colleagues this weekend and is ready to force
a lot of things
vote.
That seem very
Jordan believes he can eventually convince authoritarian to back him. Our panel is back. Leanne, you're in the hallways every day with me, talking to these members, getting a sense of where they are. What do you think of Jordan's strategy if he goes through with this Tuesday vote? Potentially to dare those members to go up and vote for somebody else at this time?
Well, as one senior Republican aide told me, it's risky because many people, I should say, who I talk to say that Jordan does not have the votes and that he's not going to get the votes. There is a lot of hard feelings. There's a lot of division. There's a lot of, disarray within the Republican Party. So I think that the question is, some people want him to have this vote just to put people on the record, see where everyone stands, how much support he is lacking. There's another Republican who told me that it is actually very dangerous to put a vote on the floor to show how many people would vote against Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is backing Jordan, and against Jim Jordan. So there's a lot of political calculations to be had, but ultimately this party has been unable to govern, to function, and do the easiest thing possible, which is supposed to be elect its leader.
I mean, there's just something genuinely funny at this point, actually, about somebody having the strategy of, I'm going to put this vote on the floor and dare people to vote against the nominee for Speaker of the House, right? Like, we've seen this plot several times. People are fully willing to do that. It should be baked into the sort of strategic calculations of the people involved here. And look, I think, we heard this in your the reporting that you just outlined. The basic problem here is it's not really clear what the Republican conference wants to do with power, right? That if they had a governing agenda that had some urgency and consensus support of the party, somebody would be able to make the case that the longer we spend chasing our own tail in the process of electing a speaker, that is putting off our opportunity to do X, Y, and Z for the American people. But what is that?
I think that it's funny.
That's such a great point, that we need sometimes people say that they'd be better in the minority.
Anything going on
are just used to the minority, not actually putting forward a governing agenda, which has been so difficult in this Congress. So there's a lot of possibilities how this could play out. Maybe Jordan forces his vote. Maybe he drops out.
I think it would be funny if we didn't get a speaker until the government shutdown happens. That'd be fucking hilarious.
That goes here. There's also the possibility that others could jump in if Jordan drops out. Some names have been floated, Congressman Mike Johnson, Congressman Mark Green, Byron Donalds, Tom Emmer, Patrick McHenry, who's the interim speaker, even former Speaker Kevin McCarthy himself. The problem is that none of them seem possible to get 217 votes, which is really the underlying problem in all of this.
Right. And
Yeah, this is crazy. I wonder how long it's going to be.
Being attacked by Hamas, I think there was some thought that after that happened, that maybe that would rally Republicans to move very quickly to try to find a speaker, and that didn't even get them to unify and find a speaker, and they left for the weekend. And one House Republican texted me saying that the fact that they can't even get a speaker and be able to pass aid for Israel sends the wrong signal to adversaries that democracy can't work.
Yeah.
So some of the
That democracy can't work? I mean, yeah, democracy is a fucking terrible system of governance, in my opinion.
those Republicans that are more moderates are very concerned about the signal this sends to allies and adversaries abroad.
And the distrust is just so palpable. I mean, there are members who just simply don't want to support another candidate who the hardliners support, because why should we reward them?
I honestly think that a monarchy would be a better system of governance than a democracy. Just some hot takes
Is
right
the
there.
thinking among them. I just want to get a sense of just how much frustration there is among Republicans, and they're airing that out publicly.
How does that make you guys look?
Makes us look like a bunch of idiots.
This is petty.
No,
This
it
is
doesn't.
petty, and I'm getting freaking
It makes
tired
it
of
look like
We're shipped
it
to
makes
have
it
a
look
letter
like there's some people who have a fucking spine now, actually.
right now, and I'm thoroughly disappointed in the process.
This is not responsible. We need to elect a speaker.
We've allowed emotion to
ya?
get in the way of logic.
People are looking for a perfect system. They shouldn't be looking at the U.S. House right now.
I mean, that's the issue.
Yes.
I mean, being able to get these guys to agree when they're all pointing at each other.
And they all have different interests, and some of them have the interest of just getting attention and being on TV, and that incentive structure, the old incentive structure of wanting to work your way up into leadership or to committees or having earmarks for your district, all of those incentives are broken. And now the incentives
Yeah, and it's
are
fucking funny.
get attention and get donations and become a celebrity and maybe get a cable
I don't
contract.
think that
and
that's
when
what
those are the
the
incentives,
incentives
then
are,
everybody
but-
is on an island.
And in play to your base, because primary politics really drive so much within the House. And it's particularly among those members who voted to oust. There were 8 who voted to oust Kevin McCarthy in a
Fucking
historic,
based.
unprecedented vote that happened almost 2 weeks ago now. And I got a chance to catch up with several of them, asking them about concerns, blowback that they may have gotten because of the fact that the House is paralyzed. They can't act on anything until they elect a speaker, but they say no regrets.
So true.
Mr. Rosendale, do you regret your vote at all to
Oh!
Speaker McCarthy?
Made a lot of progress in there today.
This
I'm
is
really- I
this is
really
from
feel good.
No regrets.
No regrets. No. Followed the rules. That's the rules of Congress. No regrets. No. Followed the rules. That's the rules of Congress.
Blowback that they may have gotten because of the fact that the House is paralyzed. They can't act on anything until they elect a speaker, but they say no regrets.
Mr. Rosendale, do you regret your vote at all to oust Speaker
We
McCarthy?
made a lot of progress in there today. I really feel good.
No regrets.
No regrets. No. Followed the rules. That's the rules of Congress, and that's what we got.
I think it was the right call, and I think we're going to come out of
Matt
this
Gaetz.
process
I like Matt
stronger,
Gaetz.
a fighting Republican force.
He seemed
The way
he's
my
like the
voters
one who's
feel, they look at the country, they look at the direction that we're going, and they don't think that we get out of this without pain or discomfort, and neither do I.
But listen to how a swing
Oh, they
district
didn't
Republican,
ask all of- they
Don
didn't
Bacon,
show all of
feels
them.
about the position that those members put him in.
It hurts the country. It hurts Congress. It's hurting our party. They're putting us in a bad hole
Don
for
Bacon.
next November.
Does it put a swing district like yours at risk?
Yeah, it does. These guys want to be in the minority. That's exact. I think they would prefer that because they can just vote no and yell and scream all the time.
I mean, there's a real fear that this all could cost them the House.
Oh, absolutely. The DCCC, Democrats, are watching this very closely. They don't even have to intervene in it because they know the challenges that Republicans are bringing upon themselves. They have not been able to prove that they're able to govern. Anything that's monumental they've done with the help of Democrats, which ultimately got Kevin McCarthy to lose his position. And that is ultimately some of the challenge with Jim Jordan, too, as being the speaker. Some of these swing state Biden district Republicans think that Jim Jordan cannot come to their district to raise money for them, that it's only going to
Biden
alienate those
Republicans,
swing
what?
voters that they need in order to win. And so there's just so many complications here, so many layers. I don't see how the Republicans pull it together and unify over someone in the next few days.
We'll see. Another question is, do they try to prop up interim Speaker Patrick McHenry, something that could potentially
No.
be Democratic
Actually, I
support to do?
did
the
like what
Democrats want in exchange,
Patrick
like Keith
McHenry
Jeffries
said
suggested,
just
give them more power in the
recently, so
legislative
I thought
process.
that
Some
that was good.
Republicans don't want to give up, but those types of discussions will get more serious the longer this drags out.
When the world of business is constantly changing, you need to stay ahead. So what about...
It's amazing how quickly these have happened. They did go for a third vote today. Jim Jordan failed by the widest margin yet, and apparently that was too much for anyone to stomach.
Yeah, 3 additional Republican members decided they did not want to vote for Jim Jordan today, so 25 were against him. They decided to go back into conference, and in that conference meeting, the Republicans essentially voted him out as nominee. Now it's going to be a question of what happens going forward, and there is just a growing list of names here. Some more familiar, perhaps, than others, but there could be a lot of hats tossed into the ring by the time lawmakers come back to town on Monday evening.
We have another candidates forum set for Monday, and then we go back with voting. We said back to square one. We meant it.
Yeah, and I still think the question
tomorrow
remains
I'm going to
who
do
can
a
get
little
to
bit different of a
217.
stream. I'm going to
Megan, anyone on that
do a top
list
10
we just saw, that
books,
list that's
like
growing?
my top 10
I know
favorite
former
books,
Speaker McCarthy's
so
coming out and backing Congressman
that should
Emmer.
be fun.
Byron Donald's throwing his hat in the mix. I mean, at this point, if you have any aspiration to maybe be Speaker, now would be the moment to potentially say and raise your hand and say, maybe I can get to 217. But look at this.
Yeah,
9 people now.
I think that McCarthy's backing gets Emmer, sort of a perhaps to a majority during this candidate forum and the ensuing vote.
I don't think Emmer's going to get
I'm not sure it gets him to 217. Remember, he actually voted on January 7th, 2021 to approve the election results. So he is not liked by the Trump wing of the party.
So within 24 hours, Joe, we've literally gone from someone who's a Trump loyalist to someone who certified the election results.
Yeah.
That's the problem with the
A
Republican
Trump
Party.
loyalist who
They're
helped to
completely
try to overturn
divided.
the results in Jim Jordan, something that we talked about a lot. I'll tell you, we heard from Hakeem Jeffries today as well. A lot of folks are pointing to the Democratic leader for maybe some help on the way forward here, and he keeps pointing back to the Republican conference. Listen.
House Democrats have repeatedly made clear we want to find a bipartisan path forward.
Leader Jeffries.
At every step of the way, Republicans have rejected bipartisanship and embraced extremism. Jim Jordan is a clear and present danger to our democracy.
Which reminds us of a whole other idea. Around this time yesterday, we were talking about Patrick McHenry being empowered as a temporary speaker, and that got blown out of the water as well. So, Kaylee, I don't know where we are.
Yeah, I guess it's still not out of the question that those kind of resolutions that would give McHenry more power, Speaker Pro Tem, get revived if we find ourselves in the same position, say, next Friday. But a number of members who were speaking to reporters at the Hill earlier today suggested that if McHenry wants more power, he should just run for Speaker. Because they don't think necessarily it is constitutionally sound to be giving the Speaker Pro Tem that kind of ability to conduct legislative business. And I would note Patrick McHenry is decidedly not one of the individuals who have formally tossed their hat into the ring at this point.
Right, but Terry Haynes actually said to all three of us yesterday that Patrick McHenry does have those powers right now. But obviously, this is becoming very political. Kaylee mentioned talking to all these congressmen and women up on the Hill. She spoke to Matt Gaetz. He talked to reporters about Jim Jordan on his way out of the meeting with fellow Republicans after we learned that Jim Jordan no longer has a chance.
The most popular Republican in the United States Congress was just knifed by a secret ballot in a private meeting in the basement of the Capitol. It's as swampy as swamp gets, and Jim Jordan deserved better than that.
Holy crap.
All right, so he was one of the many individuals you spoke coming out of that conference meeting. But aren't they all blaming Matt Gaetz for really being the ringleader that put them in this exact position?
They are. And what's interesting is after that third vote failed, Matt Gaetz came out along with Bob Good, Tim Burchett, some of these other members of the 8, if you will, who decided they wanted to oust Speaker McCarthy. And they came out and said, hey, look, censure us. Sanction us, kick us out of the Republican
this is so cool
conference.
that they said
That's what it
that.
takes to get Jim Jordan
I
elected
fucking
Speaker.
love
If you want a
that.
chunk of our flesh,
That shows a
go ahead and do that.
backbone,
They
bro.
actually penned a letter to their colleagues that essentially said that. Nancy Mace was in the mix there as well, and yet Jim Jordan is very much not going to be Speaker of the House at this point, so I'm not really sure how far that effort went.
Well, so Megan, I don't know. Help us out here. It's pretty difficult to understand where we're going. The government's supposed to shut down, set to shut down in less than a month. If we start going through the motions here, nobody on that wall who we're showing can get to 217. Does the shutdown motivate some kind of a deal once we start moving into next week?
Well, 17 days ago, when this all kicked off, we thought that the shutdown and then ultimately the Hamas-Israel war would certainly motivate members. This desire to get Israel aid money, which is widely widely liked on both sides of the aisle, that has not ended up being the case. So what we're seeing now is, once again, going through each of these candidates. They're probably going to have multiple rounds on Monday night because, we're now up to 9. So, and who knows who else might file between and the Sunday deadline. It certainly could.
It's grown since we had a chance to make this for TV.
It's grown since we've even been able to make our graphics. We'll have to add to that. We'll tell the producers. But, Joe, to your point, it's kind of counterintuitive. You would think that we were definitely headed for a shutdown given the impasse we have in Congress. Right. But Terry Haynes of Pangea Policy said to us yesterday that chaos in the House could actually help avoid a shutdown. Take a listen.
How?
Right now, we've got an 80% likelihood of a shutdown. The scenario where that shutdown percentage goes down is one in which, paradoxically, this no speaker situation goes on for a while. And what Republicans realize is, we absolutely have to extend existing funding for a months long period of time.
I shouldn't have done that.
So if it comes November 17th and we're headed towards a government shutdown, does Patrick McHenry, if we do not have a speaker, put a stopgap measure on? And then he appeals to his party saying, well, we need to keep the government open so we can actually find a Speaker of the House?
Patrick McHenry has been among the most firm Republicans, saying he does not have any powers aside from the powers to run the Speaker election. And he does not want to set a precedent that gives him these, the powers to pass legislation or do anything else really except for elect a speaker. So I don't see that as a possibility. The card that everyone's keeping in their back pocket is this electing McHenry for a short period of time, time limited, get us past the shutdown, get aid to Israel, get aid to Ukraine, depends on who you ask in the Republican Party about that. But, and I think that's in everyone's back pocket. But we saw that quickly, rise and then crash yesterday when Jordan floated it. So it's really impossible to see how this all plays out.
Oh, shit.
For more on the drama in Washington, from the search for a House Speaker to the president's plea for national security funding, we turn to the analysis of Brooks and Capehart. That's New York Times columnist David Brooks and Jonathan Capehart, associate editor for the Washington Post. It's good to see you both. Let's start with the chaos and paralysis on Capitol Hill, starting with you, David. Your reaction to Congressman Jim Jordan losing his third vote for Speaker and then ultimately being booted from House Republicans from the race entirely.
Yeah, loss of a great statesman. To me, it's two things. First, it's become clear that the party is like a coalition between two different parties. There's like the Trump party, which Jordan is obviously an example of. But then there are still some pre-Trump Republicans in there, and they're angry. And so they've been pushed around, and frankly, a lot of them have been motivated by death threats, and they're sick of it. And so they're saying, no, nobody's pulling us around anymore.
It wasn't
so
like
they've stood
that
up for
much
themselves.
of depth
And so now we have two blocks that are really irreconcilable almost with each other, with as much chaos and madness and hatred in public as it's possible to imagine. And then the underlying cause is that you have a rise of group of Republicans who have no loyalty to the institutions and its norms. And so normally you lose to Steve Scalise, your speaker's race, well, you rally around him because it's for the good of the party, it's for the good of the institution. But those rules don't apply anymore.
Who gives a shit what's good for the institution?
And so it's very hard to run a party, let alone elect a speaker, if you're not going to put the institution before yourself. And so we now have a lot of narcissists.
They're not putting themselves before the institution. They said that they could that they would be willing to take all of the
TV cameras and sort of doing
They said
parallel
that they'd
play
be
with
willing
each other
to
because they
take
can't
all
team up with
sorts
other
of.
people.
And Jonathan, it speaks volumes that Jim Jordan was dismissed by secret ballot.
Shit.
He lost 25 Republican
For
votes
this.
on the floor in public. But behind closed doors in the secret ballot, he lost 112 Republicans.
No.
Yeah, and what that means is the sort of the public intimidation worked when they had to go to the floor and before their colleagues and before the nation declare their fealty to Jordan or their fealty to someone else. But behind closed doors, they were actually able to say what they really felt. And I'm going to jump on in support of what David was just talking about. You know, yes, Steve Scalise was an institutionalist. Jim Jordan, Congressman Jordan, is not an institutionalist. He has never been about governing. He's been about burning the place down. And the idea that he was Speaker designate says a lot about where the Republican Party is, and the idea that he thought that he was going to be Speaker of the House. He was not interested in governing, not interested in governing at all. If he had been, he would have a law with his name attached to it. But he came to Washington to deconstruct government, deconstruct the House. I applaud the Republican conference for secretly, but at least booting him from being Speaker designate. But now the bigger question is, who in the Republican Party, in that Republican conference, can get 217 votes in order to be Speaker outright? And I don't see who that is.
It's a good question. And I'll add this question. Why were Republicans unable to clinch victory from the jaws of defeat?
Because they have
there
people
was this
in the
viable option
in
empowering
their
Patrick
party that
McHenry
actually
as
have
a
a
temporary
backbone
House
now.
Speaker. Democrats would have supported that. Enough Democrats would have supported that. But ultimately, Republicans killed it.
Yeah, and I think that's just because they failed to put governing first. I mean, we're at a situation where there are Ukraine aid, where Israel aid, all these major issues are on the floor. And in normal time, as Jonathan said, if people are interested in legislating, in governing, in the actual physical state of the country, they say, well, there's not the time to have a brawl. But if you have been raised your whole career to think the point of coming to Congress is not to pass legislation, but to get on Fox News, then that's just your default way of being in the world. Matt Gaetz,
That's
Jordan,
not
they don't
what
have
they
another way of
fucking
being
think.
in the world. And so it became like just a gang war in high school. It became like a turf war, from West Side Story or something like that. And it's very hard to pull out of that.
Well, let's shift our focus from Capitol Hill to the White House and President Biden's speech last night. He was talking about how, as he sees it, the wars in Israel and in Ukraine, the wars that both countries are fighting, are not just their own, but that they're linked directly to U.S. national security interests. What were your takeaways from that address last night, Jonathan?
I thought the president's speech was a home run in that he stood up for American values, American national security, but also for small d democratic values. There is a link between the fight that's going on, Ukraine's fight with Russia in terms of Putin's invasion of Ukraine, and also Israel fighting for its democracy as a result of the terrorist attacks by Hamas. If those democracies were to fall to those terroristic activities, then what does that mean for the democratic, again, small d democratic experiment around the world? And I think the president was absolutely right to say that in both those efforts, the United States is the indispensable nation. It's not to say that America is exceptional or anything, but when Putin invaded Ukraine, the world turned to Biden to pull it together, the coalition together. When Hamas attacked Israel, I mean, Israel can protect itself, but when it comes to talking to other nations about opening up humanitarian lines to Gaza and things like that, they turn to the United States. American power is essential. And I think the president, in giving his speech, is saying to Republicans that you must get your act together because these nations need America's help. There's only about 26, 27, 28 days until that continuing resolution expires, Jeff, and there are only 9 working days to get something done.
Holy shit, only 9 working days?
The president in his address last night, as Jonathan mentioned, he said the U.S. holds the world together. It was very much a recitation of President Biden's worldview.
Yeah, and it was the essence of his worldview and maybe why he was elected at this moment. He used the word inflection point. And I think he's right, and it is one thing. There's a foreign policy scholar named Robert Kagan who wrote a book a couple of years ago now called The Jungle Grows Back. And the core point of that book is people can take U.S. leadership for granted, but when U.S. begins withdrawing, then that's a green light to Putin, that's a green light to Hamas.
Neocon bullshit.
And so the U.S. has to be involved, and it's not a role we've ever loved. But if you happen to be as dominant economic and military power as we are, it's a role that's thrust upon you. And if you don't take these actions, then it's immensely costly. And the president and the administration put together an aid package that includes aid to Israel, aid to Ukraine. It's some on the southern border.
$100 billion.
Let's keep the world safe aid package. Let's fight off barbarism aid package. And it's expensive, but it'd be, imagine the cost if Ukraine fell. Imagine how much our defense budget would have to go up if China took over Taiwan, or if somehow Hamas was able to push Israel out of existence. Imagine how much we're spending. So to me, this bill that the administration put together, while costly, is way less than the alternatives.
Yeah. Well, we have a couple of minutes left, and I want to talk about the increased legal exposure facing Donald Trump, and that his former campaign attorney, Kenneth Chesebro, and his former legal advisor, Sidney Powell, both pleaded guilty. They accepted plea deals in that Fulton County election subversion case. What do you think this means for Donald Trump, Jonathan?
There's a great scene in the movie Ghost where Whoopi Goldberg says to Demi Moore, Molly, you in danger, girl. And, you know, if I were to see Donald Trump, I would say exactly that to him. People were giving Fulton County DA Fani Willis a hard time for the number of indictments she leveled, wondering whether she was biting off more than she could chew, bringing this huge case. And we're seeing why she did it, because she knew, as all prosecutors know, that someone or multiple someones will flip. What's interesting is we went from a bail bondsman to the COO in Sidney Powell to the chief architect in Kenneth Chesebro. And if you are Donald Trump and those were your fellow defendants, I would be quaking. I'd be shivering in my boots.
How do you see it?
I think play this video that I saw.
The significant thing was, according to legal experts, that Powell got it.
It's like a comedy skit almost. It's the
when a person was shot, doors from my house.
This is the mayor of New York doing this.
I realize
it's so
how
funny.
important my crusade is of removing illegal handguns off the streets of New York. Hi, I'm New York State Senator Eric Adams, and for 22 years I wore a bulletproof vest and stood on the street corners and protected children and families in the city of New York. I'm asking you to join me in this crusade of removing illegal handguns off our streets and out of our homes. Please come and join me inside my house as I show you how simple items such as bamboo paper can be an indicator of marijuana use, or a cut-up straw can be an indicator of using cocaine. I will show you how to search a room to ensure that you remove illegal handguns and other contraband from your home. What I would like to show here is to empower parents on how to search a room inside their home. It's imperative that you should know what's inside your household. And no one can state that you can't search a room in your own home. You write the Constitution. There are no First Amendment rights inside your household. It is your obligation and responsibility not only to protect the child that may be using an illegal drug or carrying an illegal gun, but you also have to protect the members of the household, their younger brothers and younger sisters, and the other elder members of the household. So by periodically sending a message to your home that there are no rooms off limits, you don't believe in locked doors, your house is open to inspection by your house and the members of your house. The message is you expect your children to do what's right, but you always have to inspect what you expect. And that's the key to providing some preventive safety. So if you come to a room like this, you can start out, I always recommend to start out in a periodic fashion so you'll be used to going through the room to look at the various items in the room. You can look in the jewelry box. A jewelry box of this nature, maybe a simple jewelry box, but if you look through it closely, you don't know what your child may be hiding. For instance, a gun could be hidden. A small caliber weapon could be hidden inside a jewelry box. Look at the various colognes and perfumes and photos and pictures. You should always, when your child brings in his popular knapsack with many different locations, look through it to see what exactly is your child carrying in addition to a book. Something simple as a crack pipe, a used crack pipe. Could he have found it on the street? That's quite possible. But this is a discussion piece where you should start speaking with him to find out what is he doing with it. And the whole use of drugs. This invokes conversation.
Bro, this just seems like...
Look at picture frames and behind them, cameras. Try to determine
like
what's taking place. Behind a picture frame, you can find bullets. What does that mean?
That's where I
find
keep my
bullets?
fucking
Does it mean
bullets,
your child is carrying a gun? No. Where there's smoke, there's possible fire.
Oh, what the
Where
fuck? I've never seen
there's a bullet, there's possibly a gun. You should engage in the conversation and find out what are they doing with the item, and this empowers the parents. Look at all the items inside the room and feel around and see what's the possibility. Something simple as a baby doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs. Run your hands over the pillows and see if you feel anything that's unusual. Like a pillow like this where the button is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I will reach in, see what it is. This one could be hidden inside a pillow, a gun.
Yep.
Maybe something that you'll think that can't be hidden there.
Bro,
but
who
it
gives a
can.
shit about
And what
guns
happens not only when the
being
person
hidden inside
who's
pillows,
carrying this
bro?
illegal gun is in possession of it, but also a child that comes into the room and plays on the bed, they find this gun. Let me tell you what a child would do. A child would take this gun, and because the trigger pull is so hard, they normally take the gun and they point it in their direction to pull down on it.
Yeah, they're just
so many gun accidents take place.
That's why you
merely
teach your
because
kid
the child discovers a gun in the room
what a
and
gun
believes
is.
it's a toy, and they play with the gun. Just look and see what's inside your bookcases. It could be more than just books. Perfect place to hide cocaine or other illegal substance inside the room. My message to you, you have an obligation to protect your home. The First Amendment does not apply to the right of parents to go through their homes to remove contraband or any other unsafe item. There are no First Amendment rights in your doll. Could be just a baby doll, but also it could be a place where you can secrete or hide drugs. Run your hands over the pillows and see if you feel anything that's unusual. Like a pillow like this where the button is a perfect invitation to hide something. And I felt something bumpy. I will reach in, see what it is. This one could be hidden inside a pillow,
my kid had
a gun.
A doll
maybe something that you'll think that can't be hidden there, but it can. And what happens not only when the person who is carrying this illegal gun is in possession of it, but also a child that comes into the room and plays.
All right, this is Donald Trump talking about what he would do when he's
So here is just some of what we will do as the 47th president of the United States. And we're all doing this together. We're all doing this as a group. I totally will
I think I'm gonna lose.
Obliterate. We started it very strongly. Got rid of a lot of bad ones in Washington, real bad ones. But
yeah,
they come back at you.
Up.
All sorts of things with the fake Mueller report. By the way, no collusion at the end of 2.5 years with Russia. It was so interesting, during the campaign. They started this earlier than my win, but we were doing well. And young staffers would come up to, sir, it's so great to meet you, sir. And I said, nice to meet you. What's going on? Sir, do you have anything to do with Russia? I said, that's a strange question. No, I don't know anything about it. The hell do I know about Russia? We got enough problems. And then 2 months later, another young man came up to me. Hello, sir, it's an honor. Sir, anything
I love the way that Trump
are doing
talks.
with Russia that
was fucking funny.
Maybe we should know about, sir? I said, no, I don't know what you mean. And this happened 4 or 5 times. After about the 5th time, I said, there's something strange going on with Russia. And that was it. And then when she lost, they used that as an excuse for her loss because they were very embarrassed. It was, they say, the biggest upset. I didn't think it was. I did a speech in Michigan. I had 38,000 people there the day before. And she did a speech, and she had almost nobody. She had 100 people. So I don't know why it's an upset, but they called it an upset. But they used the Russia.
Because they didn't want
Russia. They used that, the fake media used that as a way of justifying her defeat. They used it. And it was supposed to be a one-day story, but it turned out to last for 2.5 years, because it caught on. It caught on, unbelievably caught on. And then Mueller did the report.
Bro,
18 angry Democrats. It was sick, angry Democrats.
Match.
And I think I had an angel in the room because they came up and they said, I did nothing, but they would have written whatever they would have written. They're very dishonest people. Look at the J6 committee. Think of it. I mean, take a look at the committee. If you look at this committee, they just put out a report. Think of it. Nobody has ever seen anything like it. And the report, they've just deleted all evidence. So if you are on trial, if anybody's on trial, you have no evidence whatsoever. These are political thugs. These are political thugs. These are bad people. And we'll see what happens, because I think it's a disgrace. So what's happened to a lot of people, it shouldn't be allowed to happen. You could take a look at Portland. You take a look at Minneapolis. You take a look at Seattle, where they practically took over half of the city, a big part of the city. People were killed, and nothing happens to them, but they went after some people, and it's been very unfair, two tiers of justice. So it's been a very interesting period, but we have to protect our people.
At least this one predicts that I'm going to have a victory.
And we have to protect everybody, both sides. But what's happened in this country is very sad. I will totally obliterate the deep state, stop the weaponization of our government, and overhaul the corrupt FBI and DOJ. We're going to fix the DOJ. The DOJ is corrupt. The FBI is corrupt.
Yep.
Before I even arrived at the Oval Office, I will shortly, and right after we win, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled. Many people are dying. You know, I did a town hall for CNN, and I did so good that they fired the head of CNN. I love that. They got the highest ratings in 11 years, and they fired the head. You're supposed to be the opposite. They're supposed to say, congratulations, but they fired him. But we talked about all of these things at that town hall. It was actually good. Caitlin Collins, I think she ruined her. Caitlin Collins, right? I think she ruined her career that night. That was not a great night for CNN, but they did get good ratings. That's the good news. But I'm able to say very strongly that I'm the only candidate who can make a promise that's a very important promise, the most important promise that we can have. I will prevent World War III. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen.
Sweet.
And to stop the Marxist prosecutors who release rapists and murderers while persecuting Republicans, conservatives, and people of faith, I will direct a completely overhauled DOJ to investigate every radical DA and AG in America for their illegal racist in reverse enforcement of the law.
That?
As we restore the border, I will also use Title 42 to end the child trafficking crisis by returning all trafficked children to their families in their home and the countries from which they come. On day one, I will repeal Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate. Now think of it. Think of it. Number one, I told you before, they're made all in China, all going to be made in China and other countries, done here. The United Auto Workers auto-endorsed Trump very quickly. You know, for years and decades, they just automatically endorse a Democrat. But we've lost 50% of our automaking over the number of decades. Goes to Mexico, goes to China. Mexico, unbelievable. A lot of it goes to Canada. The USMCA has been unbelievable, what we did with that. But a lot of it goes to Canada. What they've done is so bad. But now they want to do electric tanks.
Whoa.
So we have our big Sherman tanks running.
Bro,
and they
whatever
want to make
this
them
thing
electric
is,
so they
I
can
don't
be
know what it is, but it's fucking
friendly,
me up.
environmentally friendly, as you go in and blast the hell out of a community that they want to blast out. But it's done in an environmentally friendly way. Now think of it. Now the only problem is the tank can't go very far. It doesn't have the kind of power they need, but it can't go very far. So they're going to have to put charging stations all up and down enemy territory. These people are crazy, I'm telling you.
For real.
They want to make electric tanks, and I said, no, thanks. And the other problem is the battery. You know, the battery is so big that you'd have to have the tank towing a truck behind it because the battery is right there. That's a good idea. Then they want to change our trucks to all electric, and I know a lot about trucks and a lot about the industry, and I have a lot of friends in the industry, big ones, the biggest guys, the biggest guys. Hundreds of these things, big ones. And one of them said, you know, I've been doing this for 60 years, and every year my truck gets bigger, better. build these I get these big trucks. They're incredible. Peterbilt, different manufacturers. And I buy a lot of them every year. Owns a lot of them. And one of the biggest, great guy. I won't use his name. I don't want to get him in trouble. But great guy. But they're all great guys, you know. They do a great job. He said, every year my trucks get better. They're bigger, they're better, they're stronger, they go faster. They're just incredible. And if they do the electric mandate on trucks, we will go back 60 years. Because a truck that's top of the line, big, with the big tanks for the diesel, could go approximately 2,000 miles. An electric truck could go approximately 300 miles. It's a slight difference. You talk about supply chain problems, right? So you'll have to stop 6 or 7 times in order to do what another truck is doing. And they don't care about that. The other day I left South Carolina and I visited a big boat factory with a fantastic company. They make hundreds of boats a year. They make beautiful speedboats. And they said that the government now is starting to impose 2 miles an hour because they want to protect the whales. Now, in 50 years, one whale was injured by a boat.
Before.
But the windmills have driven. She can't do it. And she drops it. And then a guy who transitioned comes over. Have you lifted before? They ask. No, not really. But I'd love to give it a try. And he goes, all right. And takes the weight that she couldn't lift. Boom.
Boom.
Puts it down. Then they add 10 pounds. They add another 10. They add another 10. They keep adding the damn weight. She couldn't do a quarter of an ounce on each side.
Bro,
and I believe he broke the record by approximately 150
just like a comedian
pounds.
up there.
I think
it's
that's
so
pretty
funny.
tough. It's going to be hard to beat that record. Do you agree with that, Gina? And then the worst of all was the great swimmer, great athlete, great champion, brilliant swimmer. She's ready to start. She looks left, you know, because they're all like this very, very incredible crowd of people like golfers. You know, they grow up at 6 years old, at 7 years old, at 8 years. They're all playing the same guys because it's the pyramid, right? And those are all the best players. They play them from the time they're 6 years old. And she swam against all these people, knew them well because she was a champion swimmer, and she was swimming. She looks over to the left, and there's 6 girls that she knew very well, all top girls.
All right.
And then she looks over to the right. There's 6 girls and 1 very big girl. She looks up. And he looked like Wilt Chamberlain on steroids, okay, this guy. She looked, that's the biggest human being I think I've ever seen. And she wanted to break the record, and she was equipped to break the record. But what happened is she suffered a terrible, terrible injury. You know what the injury was? Windburn. He went by her so fast that she suffered massive windburn. The wind was so strong as he went by her. Then he went in, he had lunch for a little while, and then
he
the
had
girls
lunch
finished.
for a little while?
That was the end of the race. He broke a record by many, I think 18 seconds or something like that. This is crazy. This is so demeaning to women. It's so horrible. And a lot of the young women that are being affected don't want to talk about it. They're all afraid to talk,
It truly
right?
does show
They're
male
all afraid
excellence,
to talk.
though.
But just as I did 4 years ago, I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. Our Second Amendment is under siege.
Based.
We will restore free speech, and I will secure our elections. Our goal will be one day, think of this, one day voting with paper ballots and voter ID. One day. They just had an election in France. In France, they had, you know, they used to have mail-in ballots in France, and it was so corrupt that they went to one-day voting with mail-in ballots. Very special
That's what
paper
we need to do
very
for
good
sure.
stuff. And they had 36 million people voting at 10 o'clock. That was the end of it. 10 o'clock, you had a winner, you had a loser. Macron won, and that's it. I mean, people went home and they worry about the next election, but there was no problems that we have where we have things that are so bad that went on and everybody knows it and it's being adjudicated all over the place. But until we do that, Republicans must compete and we must win. And after we do that, we're going to get things changed so that we can have honest elections here. So in conclusion, this is what we must do to restore our country to greatness. The USA is a mess. Israel is under attack. Our economy is crashing. Inflation is out of control like just about never before. You know, inflation is what they call a country buster. If you look back at old-time Germany. You look back at some of the countries that suffered inflation, in some cases not as bad as ours.
Old-time Germany.
It breaks up the country.
After
It's
World War
country
I was
buster
fucking
time.
crazy.
China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea have formed together as a menacing and destructive coalition. Our currency is crashing and will soon no longer be the world standard, which will be our greatest defeat in 200 years. 200 years. That'll be a defeat like no other. That will be third world country for us. It won't happen with me, not even a chance. Just like Russia would never have invaded Ukraine and China would not have even thought about raiding Taiwan. China's giving Taiwan very serious thought, and the whole thing with Israel, where that focus is now, they're probably looking at it.
Yeah, I think that they probably are going to go into Taiwan here soon because of how much we're focusing on Ukraine and Israel now.
Worst 5 presidents, and I think I can really make, you know, I've been saying for a long time, if you took the worst 5 presidents and added them up, nobody would be as bad as Biden. Nobody would be close.
Nope.
But, you know, I really believe I could now make it 10. I could make it 10. You could take the 10 worst presidents in the history of our country, add them up, and nobody would be as bad as this crooked, horrible president that we have. And, you know, I never spoke so badly about him. You've been following me for a long time. You've heard me speak. And we're really like a family, this group today. And all of MAGA, the Republican Party. Look, MAGA and the Republic, most of the Republican, they like to say, well, MAGA represents approximately 55%. No, it represents probably close to 100% of the Republican Party. But
not 100%, but
we're a failing
voters,
nation. We're a nation in decline. We're a nation that's doing so badly. We've never had anything like this, and it's one thing after the other. All of these wars, we had no wars. I got out of every war. We defeated ISIS. We got out. But now these radical left lunatics want to interfere with our elections by using law enforcement. It's totally corrupt, and we're not going to let it happen. 2024 is our final battle. It's our final battle. It's also, frankly, both ways. It'll either be the worst day in history or it'll be the best day in history. It's very simple. With you at my side, we will demolish the deep state. We will expel the warmongers from our government. We will drive out the globalists. We will cast out the communists, Marxists, and fascists. We will throw off the sick political class that hates our country. We will rout the fake news media. They're fake. Not all of them. We've got some wonderful, great professionals, but many of them, and they know they're fake. We will evict Joe Biden from the White House, and we will finish the job once and for all. Because the great silent majority is rising like never before, and under our leadership, it's our leadership.
Why
all
can't
of
this
us
guy
together,
move?
the forgotten man and woman will be forgotten
because
no
it's
longer.
under siege?
With your
We begin with a dramatic and positive development in the Israel-Hamas war. The release of 2 American hostages, a mother and her daughter held by Hamas in Gaza, Judith and Natalie Renan.
For somebody that claims to be a centrist on this situation, you seem to be covering a lot of this quote-unquote fake news about Israel and what they're doing, but you don't seem to be covering the stuff that's going down in Palestine. I've never seen you speak once about most of the things that the idea for committing in Palestine itself, in Gaza. You didn't speak about them cutting off the electricity. Matter of fact, actually, I'm lying. There was one tweet where you said, if any of you guys are confused about the military justifying war crimes, here's a meme. And it was like in Giga Chat.
Bro.
That was pretty much it.
I don't even know if the IDF
what's
is
with
done
this
like.
obsessive?
Well, right now, what I'm obsessed over is people that are like really early jumping to conclusions, reporting on shit because they're trying to play into a partisan narrative instead of like waiting for the actual facts to come out. It's like insane. Like there's literally no benefit. There's no reason to do this. Like wait for people on the ground,
coming and
not
attacking
Hamas,
me.
and not even the IDF, but like
I
wait for
just
third-party
have
people to
this.
verify what's going on, rather than jumping in and trying to score political points.
Yeah, wouldn't you say the same thing about the 40 beheaded babies claim, or the fact that Hamas was going around burning babies and women?
I think they
because
they
the
did
Israeli
well. I think hold on. Wait. Okay, if you don't watch my stuff, that's fine.
All right,
but
should
I
I
literally
gamble it?
pretty sure I had clips
I'm gonna
literally
gamble.
saying the 40 babies was fake. So
come
I
on.
literally went over that.
Yes!
I literally said there was no reason to believe that was true. But it does seem like there were babies that were torched and set on fire. So I don't know why you're saying that's fake. We've seen pictures of that, unless you think the IDF is setting their own babies on fire and then showing pictures of it. But yeah, no, I mean, if people are lying,
one people say is
First of all,
AI generated.
No. Hold on. Deacon Gabe, 1 second. When you say there were barren babies, right? When you say when there were babies, you shared the picture that Ben Shapiro fucking posted, which again was proven to be fake, and then you turned around and said,
wait
actually,
a second. Hold
there
on.
is no
I don't
evidence
know if
that
it was proven to be
that this is
fake,
fake.
but
Wait.
How the
people
fuck is the
said
onus
that it
of
was
proof on people that are saying that it's fake?
Yeah, I can tell you. So one, this was reported on by multiple people on the ground. I believe there were French reporters and other people that were reporting having seen this. And two, that picture was not confirmed to be fake. There's no confirmation whatsoever. That picture was tweeted.
I don't know.
Hold on. First of all,
people say that
cut it off.
Was
it ever
AI
confirmed to be
but I don't
real?
know.
Was it ever verified? Because we're not talking about confirmation of
How
a
do you
fake
want to
picture.
tell me how you want to
because
confirm it
when
to
you
be?
present something
wait,
abstract,
stop. You just made two totally separate claims, okay? The picture was never confirmed to be fake. Can I tell you 100% if it's real? I mean, I don't know. Like I said, it's possible the IDF torched a baby of their own and made a picture of it, or it's like an elaborate fucking prank or some shit. But there's no proof anywhere that it's fake. That is not true. Now, if you want to think that Israel's literally tweeting out fake pictures and they've got reporters on the ground. Yeah.
First of all, no, stop. Wait, hold on. Cut it out. Stop. You can't present something and then ask the people that you're presenting it to prove whether it's fake or not. You retweeted this, or you're backing up, or I shouldn't say backing up. You're trying to say that people haven't proven it to be fake, when it's on Ben Shapiro and it's on people like you to prove whether it's real or not.
Wait, how do you prove Stop. How do you prove anything real? You take a picture of something and you post it. What is this standard of evidence to now every single picture that gets posted on the internet? I have to prove that the picture that's being tweeted out by the Prime Minister of Israel is not fake? How am I ever supposed to do that? Every other journalist that was on the ground there said that they saw every. Hold on, stop. Every other reporter on the ground said that they saw the same shit. Nobody gave any contradictory testimony, and there were international journalists on the ground that weren't just Israeli reporters. And then these were pictures posted.
When it comes to this, no. When it comes, first of all, I'm not sitting here telling you that there weren't any casualties that were children, that were babies when Hamas attacked Israel on October 7th. I'm not saying that. But the way that this news was propelled, the way that this news was put out was that they were saying that Hamas were targeting babies. Hamas were going out of their way to babies, to burn babies. That hasn't been proven whatsoever. The Israeli government came out and said that hasn't been proven. Thirdly,
hold on, wait, one at a time. My understanding, one at a time. No, you can never confirm that picture exactly. Welcome to every picture ever in the history of all of mankind. So that's already a retarded point. That's standard evidence is retarded. Number one. Number two.
Don't expect people to fucking believe it then. How about that?
Sure, if you don't want to believe any picture you see, but you'll believe every fucking picture that comes from an Al-Haq, whatever the fuck account, that's fine. If you want to do that, that's on you, okay? I'm not a retard, so that's not my standard of evidence. But that's fine.
No, I believe what
B'Tselem
puts out. I believe what Amnesty International puts out. I believe what Human Rights Watch organization puts out. That's what I believe.
Yeah, my understanding
was spoken about, by the way.
Okay, so you're telling me that no foreign press confirmed that they saw or that there were.
I started at Purdue Global because it was really easy to try to balance classes, writing papers, being a mom, being a full-time employee. I could still balance my personal life. That's my comeback.
Babies? You're telling me that hasn't been confirmed by anybody?
Again, you're trying to distract from the point that I'm
making.
No.
This is the point. My understanding is that dead babies.
I'll answer the question. I'm not claiming that there hasn't been any casualties that involve babies or young children on the Israeli side. I haven't said that. When you target Israel, and because again, what Hamas did on October 7th was a terrorist attack. It is condemnable. I've said this, plenty of Muslim people said this online, but you seem to just be focusing on Hassan and his fucking moderators when it comes to their fucking talking points about Hamas.
Yeah, I'm focusing on the largest political streamers online. It's not fucking pathetic. I don't care about most Muslims. Dude, there's like 2 billion of them. Why the fuck would I give a f? I'm looking at statements that are put out by countries like Qatar, and I'm looking at the largest political streamers online. Yes.
Online, on Twitter, on social media that have an audience, that have a platform. I'm talking about those guys. Most of them condemned Hamas. Most of them condemned the attack on October 7th. Most of them said that it was abhorrent. But you seem to just be singling on one person and his community and their takes.
You do know that Hassan. You do know that Hassan is not Muslim. Hassan is not Muslim. What are you talking about? Okay, go read my subreddit. I don't know. Okay, Vegan, you can talk about. This is retarded. Your mind is like rotted on this topic. I don't care. I'm good.
No, hold on. Let me ask you this. Did you even bother about tweeting about what happened to the 6-year-old kid that was killed in Illinois by his 71-year-old neighbor that said all Muslims must die? But you posted that bitch-ass tweet talking about, go fucking find your Jewish friend and comfort them. I assume that was a meme. For the love of God, I assume that was a meme. Because it seems like you're bending over backwards to dick suck all the fucking Zionists online while claiming to have a centrist position. Because I haven't seen you cover the kid that was murdered. I haven't seen you cover his mother that's in the ICU right now. I haven't seen you cover when Israel cut off electricity. I haven't seen you when they used white phosphorus that was again backed by Human Rights Watch. It was not backed by fucking Al Ahly or whatever fucking like Hamas affiliated or pro-Palestinian affiliated account that you're talking about. It was verified by Human Rights Watch org. It was verified by B'Tselem, which is a Human Rights Watch group in Israel. But you haven't spoken about any of these things. You haven't spoken about them literally committing war crimes day after day after day. You haven't spoken about the fact that they gave 1.1. That's not a war crime. You haven't spoken of Vegan Games. I'll come back to you, buddy. You haven't spoken about 1.1 million Palestinians in northern Gaza being given 24 hours to evacuate to southern Gaza. That in itself is an impossibility. But not only that, they blew up one of the roads that led to Egypt, the only road that led to Egypt. They blew up one of the roads that they designated as safe, killing 70 civilians. 70 civilians. You haven't even spoken about that. When I go on your Twitter, I'm like, when I come on stream and I listen to your takes, I'm like, okay, this guy's taking a centrist position, obviously with a little bit of a bias towards Israel, but who gives a f? We're all biased in one way or the other towards one side. Yeah. It is what it is.
Although I really don't give a shit about
it is completely conflict. Just fucking sucking when it comes to Israel.
I just think that both of them are kind of
Ben Shapiro, the Prime Minister of Israel, put out pictures of burnt babies. As a matter of fact, you didn't even speak about the fucking tweet that was put out by Israel where they said, oh, look at this blood. This young girl was painting a picture, whatever, and it was proven to be fake. The Israeli government has staged pictures numerous times to try to paint an image of Palestinians.
I know you're going to try to pivot, but none of this.
All right, call Palestinians human animals. You don't speak about that shit either.
Okay. None of these pictures have been
both call
each
other fucking animals.
Fake, and then you walk it back afterwards.
Yes, they have. Are you fucking high? Which ones? Tell me, and I'll tell you.
The burned baby wasn't proven to be fake. I don't think the blood on the blood in the fucking cloth or whatever. I don't think it was been proven to be fake.
Yes, it has. Yes, it has been proven fake. There's no fucking journalist. There's no news organization that even fucking back those pictures up.
Okay, hold on. Wait. So is it proven to be fake or is it proven to be real? Do you think those two things are the same thing or?
No. Okay, thank you for making that distinction.
Well, no, hold on. You're the one that. Okay.
Or when you present evidence and you claim as though it is real, the onus of proof is on you. It's on you.
How are they supposed to?
You have to.
How are they supposed to?
How are they supposed to? Which it hasn't been proven real.
How are they supposed to prove that they're real? Like, where is your proof that 70 people were killed by the IDF? What's the proof of that?
Real. It's way
what do you mean? So you're telling me the people that are on the ground that are reporting on are liars? Because that's where the reports are coming from.
I guess you could go and take a video of the baby.
You can talk to me. No. This is retarded.
No, go ahead, say it. No, you're being a fucking pussy right now.
I'm not being a pussy. You're not even having a conversation. You're just screaming like for 20 minutes. Like you're here to like virtue signal about you. Yes, you are. You just want like a whole 5-minute rant. I can't even respond to half what you said. Talk to Vegan Games.
Tell me what you want. Go, tell me.
Dude, just kick him.
Okay.
Like I just.
What's up?
Shut up, Vegan Games. Shut the fuck up, nigga. I ain't talking.
I thought that was Vegan Games.
Go ahead, Dustin. You want to say something? Say it right now. I'm waiting on you. Go.
No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm not. Yeah, I don't know.
I can't talk.
I don't know. Okay, Vegan Games. What did you?
You have no fucking points to present. I mean, honestly, can I ask you a couple of questions? If you don't want to present any points, at least reply to a couple of my questions then.
No, I'm not going to.
Because I have a couple of questions.
No, I'm not responding to your shit.
I can say something. Okay, can you talk?
I'm not saying anything. I'm not talking.
Your
Your whole engagement with this topic is the most bad face I've ever seen in my life. No, I'm not wasting my fucking time. You have no idea what I've reported on. You have no idea what I've covered on stream. You have no idea what I've done. I can't even respond.
This is you creating a caricature of me.
Okay, vegan games. What do you want?
Listen, there's a good chance somebody's trying to hack your website right now. You gotta make sure you're covered. I'm talking about enterprise-grade security built into your site.
All right, let's watch this video of
majority of the conference basically cast a vote of no confidence in Jordan as the speaker candidate, deciding that it was time for him to step down. That set forward a series of other decisions.
I like watching Kirk because he's just funny to watch. He like freaks out, and it's just funny. I don't really like watching any of the other people from the Young Turks. They're boring compared to him.
Is basically done for the day. They're going to come back next week and try again. But Jordan, after 3 consecutive votes in which he only lost support among the Republican conference, now bowing out of this race at the behest of the rest of his party.
House Republicans are embarrassing themselves to such an extreme extent that one of those congressmen, Representative Steve Womack, said on CNN today, I love this, that his GOP colleagues are peeing on the electric fence in the speaker fight. Now, Jim Jordan has officially given up his bid to be the next House Speaker. And today, they held the third vote to see if maybe there'd be enough Republicans voting in favor of him to become the next House Speaker. But no, he actually fared even worse the third time around, with 25 Republicans voting against him. Now, after that, he lost a GOP secret ballot vote that was taken behind closed doors on whether Jordan should even remain their candidate for Speaker. And guess what? When it came to that vote, an even higher number of Republicans were against him. It was 86 to 112. So only 86 of those Republican lawmakers were in favor of continuing the nomination of Jim Jordan. Now, with that said, Matt Gaetz, not so happy about this whole situation. Let's watch.
The most popular Republican in the United States Congress was just knifed by a secret ballot in a private meeting in the basement of the Capitol. It's as swampy as swamp gets, and Jim Jordan deserved better than that.
How the hell do I keep getting attacked like this?
And a very frustrated Kevin McCarthy, who was ousted from the speakership role because of Matt Gaetz, had some harsh words for him. Let's watch.
What history will look at,
fuck McCarthy, bro.
the crazy eights led by Gaetz, the amount of damage they have done to this party and to this country is insurmountable. I've never seen this amount of damage done to just a few people for their own personalities, for their own fear of what's going through. And really, it's astonishing to me. And we are in a very bad position as a party, one that has won the majority, one that America has entrusted us with, that a simple 8 people have put us in this place.
And listen, guys, yesterday, Matt Gaetz and Kevin McCarthy allegedly got into it during a closed door meeting that other lawmakers described as intense. So at one point, while speaking at the mics during the gathering, McCarthy mentioned Gaetz by name, according to a source in the room. Gaetz stood up to kind of interrupt him and say something, per a second source in the room. This is my favorite part. McCarthy then shot back. Sit your ass down, McCarthy said, according to the source, prompting Gaetz to say something back. The second source said Representative Mike Bost was ready to lunge across the room.
He's such a fucking idiot.
Absolute insanity. It's a clown show. It's a total clown show. Like, it's embarrassing, but also highly entertaining, Brett.
I think it's amazing. They made their bed and they're pooping in it. That is exactly what is happening right now. Big loss today for a former, I don't know if you guys have heard about this. He was involved in some athletics back when he was at The Ohio State University. That guy, jacket off Jim Jordan, because he takes his jacket off. That's the only reference there. Has lost, and his chronology is loser, loser. He was gonna quit, but he came back for another vote, the third one, which he lost, and now he's been ousted. So he's a 5-time loser, 1-time almost quitter. It makes me so happy. Jim Jordan, we have all been spared, at least for now, hopefully forever. from having a Speaker of the House who is that guy at the car dealership after you think you've agreed to the price of the car. He's sitting there in the finance area going like, we're not gonna let you leave here without the true coat. You want to get that true coat? And that guy just his own staff of people at the dealership just be like, listen, everybody hates us, but we hate you the most. Sit your ass down, and it makes me so happy.
It's so good. So when rumors of that whole exchange came out, Matt Gaetz spoke to the press saying of Kevin McCarthy, he gets his Irish up sometimes. I'm not a very emotional person. I'm a lawyer by trade, not a baker.
Bro,
and so I'm used to the presentation of arguments and the listening of arguments without getting hot under the collar. Matt Gaetz is like insufferable. Like so much so that like, I don't really have much love for Kevin McCarthy. Please don't get me wrong. But he somehow makes Kevin McCarthy look good, relatively speaking.
He's definitely smarter than Kevin McCarthy.
Totally.
That's the problem. So Kevin McCarthy, Matt Gaetz gets to take as many victory laps as he wants, even if he loses getting his people in there, because Matt Gaetz is essentially the reason Kevin McCarthy lost his job. Because Kevin McCarthy, for all these fiscal conservatives in the right wing, they've proven one thing: they can't count for crap. The best asset, there's two things you need to do as Speaker of the House. One, you need to be able to raise money, and we all know that. Two, you need to be able to count votes. And Matt Gaetz has gone in there, and Kevin McCarthy and Jim Jordan have both failed at counting votes. They have lost them in a way that is, quite frankly, super duper unprecedented as far as recent memory is concerned. And the only difference is like instability is not great for your party. It could be good for certain interests, but I still don't know what those interests are after all of this. They're not doing a good job of messaging that. Everybody knows that it's just a bunch of guys. They might not be peeing on an electric fence, but they definitely have their junk out and they're measuring it.
Oh,
totally. And they're doing it at a cost to the American people because the House is unable to conduct business, do their jobs if they don't have a speaker. And look, it's gotten so petty and so pathetic. I mean, it's so embarrassing. I don't even know if I carried myself this way in high school or middle school, but now they're like blocking each other on social media. So Nancy Mace, who was one of the crazy eight, as Kevin McCarthy likes to say, ousted Kevin McCarthy, voted against him. And so she had written on X, formerly known as Twitter, "We should not go home until we have a speaker," to which Congressman Greg Murphy quote tweeted and said, "How about apologizing for causing this mess?" Okay. So then Mace responded to that, and this is where it gets good.
Oh, not so bad.
If you want to vote against the people who elected you, that's on you, Representative Greg Murphy. But I'm going to stand with them, not Washington. For context, he tried to reply, but he blocked me after posting this. What a kitty.
Oh, you know what it is. It's a reference to the female copulatory organ.
It's what Trump likes to grab without asking permission first, right? Yeah, one of those.
That's not what he said. He said they let you do it, but oh fuck.
Spiritfire feels like the game that we were born to make.
Well, this game for me is the culmination of my entire
caring about the subject of this.
I wanted to watch this because it just seemed funny. Bro, why the fuck are they coming all the way around this way? They could have went through the gate. Shit.
I don't know how long I'm going to be able to watch this, okay? This one might be a little bit rough for me and for everyone else, okay?
I should have kept my monsters in there.
You may be taken aback by this, but please don't go.
The up thing. I don't want anyone to give me shit for this, okay? I've heard this guy talk regularly in, I think it was a Not Just Bikes video, and you know what? When he's talking normally, I understand what he's saying. I can understand every word coming out of his mouth. When he's talking, whatever fucking enunciation he's doing in this,
Bro,
I cannot understand what he's saying. When he's talking normally, I understand. This, I don't understand what he's doing. Gooning and BNWO. Hold on, I'm skipping all the way to the end of the video. I can't tolerate much of this.
Ew.
Gooning, derived from the mental state in masturbation where a person becomes mentally blank and is overcome with pleasure, leading to a trance-like state.
I thought that
and
it was
more
when you just
susceptible to
masturbated a
exposure
lot.
to other forms of
When you
kinks.
just beat it all the time.
What? Gooning is a kink where you fetishize being a porn addict. It's not.
Oh, I got another follower.
That's not what that means.
Nice.
Masturbating until you feel good is just masturbating. That's the point.
That's.
Yeah, is he mixing up gooning and hypno?
According to their dedicated and regularly updated subreddit,
I don't know what the fuck hypno
this is designed as a gateway to kink for those who believe that their
Yo,
sexual
what's up,
prospects
Wombo?
are impossible.
Sissy is really purely a sexual thing.
Oh, we're talking about sissy.
Ew.
What?
Bro, this is fucking disgusting.
That's been my experience. Because it is a term for someone being feminine, but also being like pathetic and powerless. And so I guess it's kind of beyond me why someone would claim that unless it was for like a humiliation
Bro, I'm
kink.
getting fucked.
The thing I'm reaching for is that it might also be liberating for them in a way.
Oh, Vosh, you should see how he deceptively edits other creators. It's really vile, actually. Is that true? Like, people will talk to him, and then he'll, like, cut up what they say in a way that sort of skews their opinions?
When it is not in this, like, super problematic context,
and it was funny.
To step out of the gender that's expected of you.
Oh, yeah, dude. There are a lot of cuts.
Vosh is
right?
so
Like to
fucking
get
weird.
a break from that almost. And I think that's what people maybe look for
Hopefully I
in
can
like
kill these guys.
submission
Oh,
in
shit.
general. It's
I
just like a
fucking
break
lost
from
for sure.
their normal selves. They want to be feminine
They took
because
the
part of them
fucking-
wants to be
Damn it.
powerless, and they just don't see femininity as powerful.
Now I'd be remiss to even utter the word gooning without referring to the giggly goon clown.
What the fuck
I'm so
is
glad
the
we
giggly
skipped
goon
like
clown?
2/3 of the way into this video. It's so much better this way. Okay, gooning and sissy are two different things. These are two different
Yeah.
kinks. In fact, I don't even know how much of an overlap there is necessarily because
Vosh know so much about all these
going in
fucking-
different directions.
all
Gooning
of
to me
these
is like
different
I imagine
kinks,
is a
bro?
very like cis heteronormative. Like
Is he
whenever I
just, like,
see
constantly
people talking about being
watching
gooning or
porn or
whatever,
something?
they're looking at the most like normie ass porn or whatever. Like it's not. I don't know.
Hosted a hub for fetishes.
Fuck, dude, I'm so
Most
tired.
applicable in this case, the Black New World Order.
There is
What
a
the
pretty
fuck
big
is
overlap
that?
between the sissy porn and the Black New World Order shit. That is true.
What the fuck is
Do
the
you like
Black
having
New
a P.O.
World
box
Order?
but are tired of wasting time and money driving to the post office?
No, this is not a band fetish, where folks who subscribe to this kink deify blackness, specifically black men, by denigrating white people. Typically self-declared cis white mandem who
Do we need to be watching this? Listen, okay, I need a break from all the Palestine bullshit, okay? I need a break from all the...
That's kind of why I'm watching
Genocide,
this too,
all right?
because it
acknowledge this
the
myth
Palestine shit just is
that
getting
black
boring.
men are pinnacles of masculinity.
I really
and
don't
by
care about it at
masculinity,
all.
I really mean a travesty
They
of
both-
manhood
both sides
insofar
just seem
as
fucking
simply being
stupid to me.
puissant, always open for business and built like the Secretariat. And in this acknowledgement,
What this is just like standard interracial black fetishization. This is like a very common kink, unfortunately. It is true that there's a big overlap between like the
Well,
sissy porn
I
and
didn't
this,
know
and
that
I
this
will
was,
say
like, a
that these
normal
people are the
kink.
worst on porn sites and on Grindr. This is the reason why like 90% of porn that's labeled interracial, it's not interracial porn, it's race fetishization porn. Like because
Hopefully my
no one
monster
says like what's like
these guys
interracial porn, it's just like a black
Alright,
chick and
I'm
a white
winning it
guy. It's like
back.
okay. But then it's
Sweet.
like here's a black guy and a white girl, and then the girl's like screaming the N-word while getting railed by the super hot black guy or whatever, and it's all like race baity
What
shit,
the
you know?
fuck?
And only white people like this. I have never met a black person who was into
Nice.
porn that fetishized the masculinity of black men. It's always racist white guys, because racist white guys are trying to sexualize their pathological obsession with the perceived sexual superiority of black men, and that
Fucking get
insecurity is
those
what motivates a lot of their
motherfuckers,
conservative
bro.
tendencies.
coming to the realization that
This is stressing
they
me
ought
out, this
not
game.
even insult the masculine race by claiming to be a part of it as a white man and just transition
I wanna
into
get-
a woman
I'm gonna
so that the
skip
human
forward.
race is devoid
The accent here. Yeah, it's actually possible to understand what he's saying now.
Real. Level 3 take, just absolutely exploding out of my head. White genocide is real and it's good and I'm horny for it. I want to know how you're hanging out in these spaces that take the idea of a white genocide or great replacement remotely seriously, but then also managing to like be into it.
He mixes femboy, sissy, and trans the whole video. The mixing of those groups is unironically pretty transphobic. I don't really blame people for...
Bro, being transphobic is based. I'm playing.
Wix is your platform to perform
it's
on.
called Total War
A complete
Warhammer.
portfolio solution means you can tell your unique story with confidence.
It's pretty fun,
From
honestly.
choosing a name and design that fits your vision, to bringing your projects to life.
All right, am I winning now?
Custom
Fuck, yeah, I
themes
fucking
and
won.
layouts.
Oh man, that was stressing me out.
Fine-tunable details
I just keep
and
getting
tons of
attacked from
animation
every end.
options. Deliver an immersive.
Ben Shapiro, I saw you mention me on the Iced Coffee Hour podcast.
I'd be interested in debating Destiny.
I think we should have a debate over who the next president of the United States should be, and I bet Jubilee would host the debate for us.
Oh, that
This
would
is the
be sweet.
113th episode of Middle Ground,
When is-
and we want you to help us decide what the next
Yeah, it's on
113
PC.
episodes will be. Join our Middle Ground Patreon community
I think it's only
and
on
make Middle
PC.
Ground with
I don't
us.
think that you can get it on like I don't think that you can really be a gay conservative, but
The gay community is over-sexualized.
yes.
Can the agreeers please step forward?
Oh,
The gay
man.
community, because
Most
you
of
know
them.
it's based off of our sexual attraction, it has a very
Treasure,
easy
should I enslave them?
time going
Yeah,
into a
I'm gonna
space that's
enslave
all
them.
about sex. To me, being gay is a lot more than who I sleep with. You know, it's
All right.
it's
Oh,
an experience
man.
from when I grew up. The movement used to be
Can I
about
build
love,
finally?
but then you go to a pride parade now, and you're seeing old men with their genitals out.
I think everybody has a right to like express their sexuality in the ways that they do it. So on those
I'm
grounds,
still
I'm
getting
not like
sieged.
offended by these old people like
Right.
doing what they're
Attack
doing.
you.
But I do agree with that. I think like one of the biggest challenges when I
Oh,
was coming
man.
out to my dad, who's Muslim, it was like my sexuality, being gay, isn't just
Fight
about
this
my
guy.
sexual lust for other
I can
men. It's more
actually,
about the spiritual connections, the in-depth things. Like me as a whole complex person, I do
The fuck
think
is he
that
talking about?
our experiences and our existence has kind of been trivialized by the over-sexualizations. I don't think it's inherently an evil,
And
but
the over-sexualization is apparent in the apps that we can get. I mean, you can literally have sex
Yeah,
on demand,
Grindr.
or you could find it in a
Bro.
location wherever you want. Certain
I hear
businesses
that
are
that
actually
shit's
keeping doors
just
open
fucking
because men are
disgusting.
having sexual relations in the bathrooms, and that's inappropriate. I mean, we want our privacy
That's
too, just like women.
disgusting, bro.
And now we can't even have our privacy because a small sect of men ruin it for us.
Yeah, and that was really frustrating
They
too.
just-
When I came out the closet, it was like I had this
All right,
innate
should I
pressure.
gamble?
I have to download Grindr.
Ooh, I
I have
already
to be
have
super
30.
sexualized, and that's really bad on our youth because
Yeah, I'm gonna
although
gamble.
everyone
Come
has
on,
sex,
come on,
I get
come on,
that,
come on,
but
come
why
on.
is it that our community is
Yes!
so hyper-focused on that?
I haven't attended many Pride events because of that reason, and I was able to go to
deployment.
Portugal, and there was this queer
Sick.
retreat, and it was like the first time I felt like safe and secure as a queer person because it wasn't sexual, and I could have these relationships with queer men, but there is no expectation to be sexual.
Yeah, and we see it at the bars. I mean, it's a go-go.
You go to a gay club, you're getting grabbed.
You are.
You're getting
You're
hugged.
it's an
You're getting
expectation to be
groped.
sexual at the clubs. And I mean, I avoid them at all costs at this point.
Dang, what would Middle Ground be without you, Ragini? But you know, it's not just me. It's a team effort too. Cheers to that.
Okay,
Creative
let's
project. Thanks
skip
so much
this
to Milano for sponsoring this portion of the episode.
All right,
Now,
skip
let's
this
get
bit.
back to the video.
Ooh. Uh-oh.
I think it's
should I do
easy to
here?
generalize our community is over-sexualized because we're in it.
I hate
so
these
we're
guys. They
focused
fucking
on
run
it.
so
But if you look at the
fast.
straight community, I think they're doing a lot of what we're doing, especially now with more sexual liberation becoming a thing for them and their community. I also think that we have to remember, like, we've only been legal, as in, like, decriminalized in our sex for 20 years this year.
Oh,
That's
man.
crazy.
Oh, okay.
Every year up until 20 years ago, like, there's going to be an explosion of people wanting to embrace their sexual liberation. And then you look at things like the AIDS epidemic in the 80s. Like, that took away
like, where
so
the
many
fuck is
people
all
and
my
it
men
made us
at?
afraid to have sex. So
Is
this,
that it?
in my opinion, is a way for us to
Oh,
overcome
damn.
stuff.
I
and
need to send
we
some
definitely need to
people
find a
to go get
balance.
that.
The basis for making us illegal
'Cause they can
has always been based on sex.
Right.
And so
They should
being openly
definitely do
sexual in any way at all whatsoever is inherently a protest, inherently
so they
subversive.
only
I mean, there are sexual things that happen in public that I'm sometimes uncomfortable with, but that doesn't mean that all the things we see and all the things our friends see represent the majority of experiences. A huge portion of LGBTQ people exist in zero public LGBTQ spaces.
I think you draw the line of you do this in the comfort of your home and you can show affection in public. I don't know if we need to be like indecent in public. I don't know if that would be considered.
How do you define indecent?
I've been
like
I'm
when
in
I
a, I'm in a
suck in each
20-year
other's
relationship,
faces
a 20-year
or something?
monogamous relationship with my husband. And I say husband even though
I don't
we're not
like
married.
when straight people do
but
that
we're
in
not groping
public,
each other in
so-
public. We can peck, we joke around. When we walk into a room, they know we're together because
hold
we
hands?
give. Yes, absolutely. We show extra affection at home in the privacy of our home or in the privacy
Yeah,
of
it's
friends'
only
home
on
because we feel
PC.
comfortable in that.
And you know that what that though is your specific preference for public affection. There are a million rom-coms out there for with heterosexual people, and a funny thing seen in that movie
Correct.
is straight people having sex in some public space.
Correct.
This is a.
I still don't think that's appropriate.
I don't
Straight
necessarily
people,
do
gay
either.
people
I
having
don't
sex in
necessarily
public
do either. I'm
space is
just
not
saying we're
appropriate.
talking about personal preference.
I know, but I think a lot of times in this, and I don't disagree with what you guys said, but a lot of times what I'll hear is like, well, the straight people do this, and I always grew up saying, I clean my house before I tell somebody else to clean theirs. I'm not straight. Therefore, if straight people are doing something wrong and gay people are doing something wrong, I'm going to address the gay people that are doing something
But shouldn't wrong we and be not addressing like like the people who have been setting the stage for all of us to like follow suit with? You know, like we live in a heteronormative culture. Like everything that we see is based off of the way that they exist.
The whole idea of over-sexualization and things like that, I think the danger in it is that for so long it's been weaponized against us, so we're always kind of like under this magnifying glass of like, oh, well, can I hold hands, can I kiss this person? And then, you know, I don't think we necessarily have to like mimic quote-unquote bad behavior simply because that was what was served to us.
Sure, wellness goals are great, but so are little changes for the better. Like better sleep, a better.
Pride is still necessary.
No, it never was. Maybe we'll watch this one. Muslims again, considering the
what you are bringing up is
Palestine
not
shit.
relevant.
It has everything to do
They're
with
not
it.
on the same
It has
level.
everything to do with it.
Let's let people talk for like at least.
Oh wait, what was this? What was the question? I skipped it.
The other side is brainwashed. Can the agreeers please step forward?
Ex-Muslim verse. So
I think brainwash is a strong word, but I also obviously stepped forward. I was raised Muslim. I'm Iranian. My mom's side of the family, especially a lot of Iranians, they felt like they just had to become Muslim to obviously like adhere. And it's extreme what they're doing in Iran, obviously I'm not comparing. But I guess with brainwash, I also went to an Islamic school. So my really devout Muslim friends, it feels like brainwash. I have a friend who's hijabi, and I just like, for her,
hijabi?
it feels like it wasn't a choice.
They wear a hijab?
Kind of vibe. It's just something you should do because of your family and because of the religion. But then she's also super devout Muslim. It's just a hairy topic.
Can the disagreeers please step forward?
I want to see a good question.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree in the fact that brainwash is a very strong word, just like you said.
Oh, yeah.
Yet you still step
Men
forward.
and women are equal.
Women and men are equal
This
in
is a
the
good
eyes
one.
of Allah.
No. So these are the disagreeers?
I think a lot of people misconstrue about Islam, and when they say that women are mistreated in Islam, it just comes from the fact that men and women were created for different purposes. Now that doesn't mean that one holds more value than the other, and that one is seen as better.
As an atheist, now I still hold that Islam does come from a feminist place. You see women in positions of leadership. So despite my being on this side, I still appreciate that Islam has that perspective.
I grew up overseas. I grew up in Bangladesh, and growing up in a country that seemed like a lot of things are not fair for women, a lot of things are not fair for minorities. And I think I struggled with that thought, like, okay, if men and women are equal in the eyes of Allah, then why does this exist? And what I realized as I grew older was that we're also living in a society. So I definitely have to face the repercussions of like other people and the social construct that we have, right?
The systems outside of it.
Yeah, the system outside of it. So like our experiences are a product of like what we believe in, and but also like our position within the system.
We live in a
and
society.
I won't
out
put the fact that like society sees women as not equal onto God and onto my religion, because that's not what religion is meant to be. And I'm not going to say that Islam does not believe that women and men are not equal.
I might get deleted because of this. You see, I've chosen to take on the most powerful enemy of all, the elites. And here's the story over the course of the last few months.
This was one of the biggest topics that caused me to really doubt my faith. Looking at the Quran, looking at the authentic hadith, and also just from historical records as well. Men are allowed to have sex with female slaves.
Why is their face
in Surah Nisa,
covered?
verse 24, it says, prohibited to men are married women
like
except for what your right
dudes'
hand
clothes.
possesses. And your right hand
confused.
possessions refers to female slaves. And we see multiple hadith of
Maybe they just wanna
instances
hide
where the
their
men
identity?
have just defeated the tribe, they have female war captives, and Muhammad allowed them to have sex with them.
Oh, man, I
And
think
that's
I'm gonna
probably
win.
going to be rape,
Yes,
because what woman would be consenting to sex in that situation?
I think too, like just thinking about the Quran and my upbringing, like I had every day, the two biggest ones that stand out to me would be like the issue of the hijab, which I know a lot of people will counter. So the Quran says women have to cover the khaymar to cover up so that they don't tempt the men. And then I will say the Quran does technically say men's hijab is their gaze, the male gaze. And it just seems a little silly to me. Beyond that, like in the Quran, how men can have up to 4 wives, but women can't. It's like, in the Islamic school, I want to say the azan, the call to prayer. All the boys in my class, they're like, we're going to do the call to prayer for this Friday. I'm ineligible because I'm a woman, apparently. I can't do the azan. I can't do the call to prayer. So just those I would say are my Quran-specific examples, and they're like, well, this is to protect women. I don't see that at all.
What is the call to prayer
there's a lot of different points that you brought up. The first one being the hijab, which the woman is obligated to wear, and you talked about how the men have to lower their gaze, which is 100% right. The women also have to lower their gaze, and the men actually have their own hijab. So
all right, I'm gonna look at what the fucking call to prayer is.
Ahmed says, Allah has said that we have created you in pairs. What about so?
Not pair. Call to prayer. There we go. Enslave them, for sure.
Rough time finding a place for you and your roommate?
Alright, hopefully I can fucking build now. What? I'm still under siege?
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar.
Where the fuck is... How do I get out of
Allahu Akbar, Allah.
Okay. It's just a song? Weird. Call to prayer is delivered 5 times a day. Oh, it's where they fucking do the mat thing. Okay. Women don't do that? Weird.
the men have their own parts of their body that needs to be covered as well. So obviously, men and women were created both physically different and psychologically, all different types of, they're different in every single way. There's different parts of the body that need to be covered because men are attracted to different things, women are attracted to different things, and it's to protect both sides. The second thing that you brought up, I believe you mentioned you not being able to make the call to prayer.
Still under siege.
Once again, that's in order to protect the women, just because men can also be attracted to the voice of a woman. So that's the reason that that's not allowed. And I completely understand that you being a young child, that's something that you wanted to do. And I mean, pre-puberty, in your household, with your family, that's something that you should feel free to practice. Make the call to prayer, do that in front of your father, your brothers, your uncles. It doesn't matter. It doesn't need to be in front of the whole entire mosque. So there may be things that you felt because you were a woman you were being limited to, but there's a benefit behind it. So it's about looking into that.
I think this is bringing up an important point of contention here with all the things that you're saying, and you keep bringing up that men and women are fundamentally different. Where is that coming from?
Where is that coming from?
When you say those things.
When I say what?
Men and women are fundamentally different in these very specific ways. Men are attracted to a woman's voice.
Okay, so scientifically, men and women are different. So if you were just look at someone, man, and I look at a woman, I'm pretty sure I would see some differences, as well as just scientifically,
biologically,
emotionally,
Men and women
psychologically.
are
There's been studies because everyone started to
very
question
different.
you being able to change your sex and be able to change your gender.
hey, what's up?
But you were created as a certain sex for a reason, and each.
So that's my point of contention here. There's nothing for me there when you say that I was created for a specific purpose and a woman was created for a specific purpose.
But you were.
I would disagree completely. Why can't
I'm a
I
Christian
fulfill
and I
those
believe
other
that.
purposes? When you start slowly building upon these layers of like roles, that prescriptive roles, that starts to create a system of oppression.
Yeah, well, in order
that's
for
how it's built.
Well, can I say for personally myself, I
have
would
any
say that
reinforcements
his
come, or am I
view of it
just-
is also an interpretation as much as there's merit to it. Covering my hair and my face for me was so that people see my personality and my intellect before they see my beauty or they see the things that they're attracted to.
Yeah. Damn it.
Also, in my culture, I'm ethnically black, obviously. Well, maybe not obviously, but our hair is very different from other races, and we go to great lengths to assimilate, and that was something that I personally struggled with before converting. So for me, yeah, it helped me gain confidence. I would be worried about like, how does my face look? Is there something on my face? Or some of your communication is also in your facial expression. So when you can't see some of it, you have to kind of, use your imagination a little bit. I like that mysteriousness. I like that, especially other men don't have that access because I have a fiance. I like that there's only one person who can see these parts of me.
Are these guys gonna
And
come? I
that's
don't
what
wanna
makes
go
it
down
special
this
in a
hill
way. So the
because
roles for men
it
and
gives
women,
me
it's
a-
not entirely just because I want you to do it because I said so. It's probably
Are we
because
just
it's
both
to your
gonna sit here and wait until the
benefit.
other one goes
If
down
you
the hill?
look
Yeah,
for
I want to
it.
add to your
I
point
only have
that
3
Allah actually
men. I
says in the
don't wanna-
Quran that La ikraha fi din, like there's no compulsion in religion. So when you say that, why can't I do X, Y, Z? Like why can't I do the other role, for example, right? These are the things that, because Allah expects you to, these are the things best for you, but it's not that you can't do these things.
But when you say it's best for me, there's a threat. The problem is there's always going to be an existential threat.
Saying it's best for you because it's what's best for society. So everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts in place for us, that we believe God, the reason that we have these specific, if you want to say, roles, because men complement women in a certain way and women complement men in a certain way.
But what I'm saying is he's not, when
let
you
me
say that
let me
though,
explain myself, all right? Let me give you a very easy way to understand that. I'll use her point, right? So you mentioned that, for example,
Hopefully that did something.
why can you not marry 4
there we
husbands and
go.
why can I marry 4 wives, right? These things have less to do with equality or worthiness in the eyes of Allah and just individual sex differences. For example, if I have 4 wives,
Glitching
right?
out.
I can impregnate all of them and we'll all know
Yeah,
who
I've
the
heard
father
this
is and who the mother
argument.
is. If you,
Andrew
for
Tate
example,
said
in this
this.
scenario, you have 4 husbands, we won't actually know who the father is. And also
Why is that important?
Why would that happen?
And
Why
how
would
does that make men and women equal in the eyes of Allah? Like that's what that's telling
So
you.
I'm saying we're equal, but we're different.
There's no knowing of the
And
father
that's just
there.
reducing women to the sole purpose of reproduction.
I don't think it's that. Men, you can impregnate someone every day. And women, we kind of have to stay pregnant for a while. And I feel like there would be like a mix up with
paternity
I understand what you're saying,
like
but these are
genetics. Like if it was just one man impregnating a bunch of women, you could have a society still.
I understand what you're saying, but these are such narrow, like whataboutisms. These are such narrow circles.
So let me ask you a question.
No,
If-
but I want to
I'm sorry, I want to hear from Atia and Janet as well.
Yeah.
I think also, here's just a food for thought, and I can guess the answer. Why don't y'all wear a hijab? Like, why can't men wear a hijab?
They are.
So I'm currently in hijab, right?
But I
So-
mean on your head. You have heads, women have heads.
So you consider that you're basically calling that hijab a headscarf. That's not
That's
what the
a
hijab
khimar,
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean,
And once again, we already said that the hijab for men and women is different because we're both created physically different. So obviously the hijab for both of them is going to be
that
different.
statement is not
And
really
then once
wrong
again, you're
to me.
implying that the hijab is oppressive to women. So that's what you're implying when you're saying that why can't men do it? Because do you believe that
Where are they going? What
the
fuck are
hijab
they
is oppressive to
doing?
women?
But in the deepest depths
Bro, why is this?
of my soul, yes, I am.
I'm gonna pause this for a second to let it. All right. I would ask what the fuck I should do here. 'Cause I don't. There we go. Damn, I'm out of my wizard.
I understand it can be a choice. I do believe it's oppressive.
By you agreeing that, or by you saying that the hijab is oppressive to women, that's actually disrespectful to our women in the religion, because you're either implying that these women can't think for themselves and that they're just wearing this hijab because they're
That's not what I mean at all.
No, I think. Or you're saying that we're all forcing every single woman in the religion to wear this and we're throwing this on their head.
And
I think we need to acknowledge how easily.
No, I'm saying that's what you're. That's what you by saying that the women are being oppressed in the religion. That's because they have to wear the hijab.
It's not black and white.
Can I jump in here and ask? So these justifications that we are seeing for hijab, do these justifications really still have solid ground when we consider that the hijab was for only one class of women, free women? Slave women didn't wear hijab, and because men were allowed to have sex with slave women, they were being sexualized and objectified when Muslim men were considering whether they're going to purchase them.
Yeah, let me answer that. So to address your slavery point, I'll get on that in a sec, all right? But the point that you're asking, if we are really equal, how could that be? And you were asking if we all had hijab, why do you have to cover your head with a khimar and I don't, right? A very simple example is if I expect a man and a woman to lift a heavy load, but the same load, that would be unequal, right? So we have to look at it as equality or equity. So what is equal in the eyes of Allah for a man is not going to be the same treatment for a woman. And I'm sure we understand that if there are differences in our sex, then there has to be difference in expectations and roles.
Maybe historically, but we live in a time where a lot of what you're saying just isn't relevant.
So
I'm not going to be found in a situation.
Thank you. I would love to wrap this up, and I would love it if the women would wrap it up.
I will say I feel like it's very rooted in when it comes to covering up. For example, it's to protect you, and if you are dressed immodestly, they might react a certain way. They're attracted to your voice. I just have to say, I am a lesbian, and I am not tempted by, like, in my mind, I don't see a woman walking down the street immodestly, and it's not rooted in equality. Like the prompt said, Allah sees both men and women as equal, and I don't hear that honestly at all.
And when you're saying
things you're saying.
Thank you. I would love. We're going to keep going, and all of this is going to build on each other. I would really love to hear from Atiya.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. There are a couple points I want to touch up on. I really appreciate the uncomfortable things that you brought up in this conversation, and I loved how a lot of you guys didn't respond. I couldn't.
I'm gonna lose this fucking fight for sure.
Respond myself, and then she brought up a point, and then everyone kind of jumped onto that because that is something you guys could respond to, and I think there are uncomfortable things that especially us as women have questioned that a lot of times don't get answered. And then I also want to say you brought up a point, or we were talking about what she said was disrespectful to Muslim women. That's not true, because women around the world have different experiences. There are women who are being forced to wear the hijab. You can't disregard somebody's life experience and be like, no, you don't live in that social area. You could live like this. When you're part of a system that you don't have that same level of openness to, it's hard to be it's hard to see that, you know?
One of the biggest problems in our society is food waste, but now also you can make a difference, starting from your refrigerator. Thanks to
It is impossible to live a 100% pure Islamic life in modern society.
Join our Middle Ground Patreon to watch this exclusive prompt.
I have lost relationships because of my current religious beliefs.
The relationships that I've lost would be relationships that I probably shouldn't have been in the first place. Once I became more strong in my faith, I had to cut those people off. So those are the only relationships that I've lost. Yes, it hurt maybe at the time.
I want to see this one.
Turned out to be queer. I'm queer, my sister's
fucking
queer.
faggot.
It was a long journey of self-acceptance, and this is just who we are and who we've always been. When
How
I
are
look at
you
my
and your
grandfather,
sister
he
queer, bro?
and
Something
I
fucking happened
have
in your
strikingly
family, for
similar.
sure. If both you and your sibling are gay, then something fucking happened. You probably got like you guys probably got like molested or something. There's no way
stories.
that you
He
can have
admits
two
that in
fucking
his village,
people
it
in
was
your
normal
family, like you and your
for
only
men
other
before they
sibling
were
both
married
turn
to
out
play
gay
around with each other, to
without
have
some
boyfriends,
fucking weird ass shit happening
to experiment.
to you
But
guys.
then after you were an adult, after you married, of course, that was off the table. But I kind of see, you know, almost 70 years apart, me and him both have the same stories. Early 20s, got to experiment with my sexuality.
Ew.
You know, now in a long-term relationship with a girl and very secure in that. But his experience was filled with shame that he then passed on to his daughters. So I see that, and I feel bad for generations of queer people who have been told that they can't be, or that maybe they can be, but they can't act upon it because that is haram in some way.
It is. It's fucking
so
haram.
Queerness is in our blood. It's in our nature. It's across species. It's across time. It's across history, and
doesn't mean that it's
religion
right.
through Islam, through Christianity.
There's murder across our
and
history.
various
There's
other means
all
have
sorts
been
of
used as
fucked up
tools
shit
to erase
in our
that queer
history and
history.
in
I agree. All Abrahamic, all religion in general, organized religion. I feel like it's not. You're gonna find.
I've got to go take a piss real
in
quick.
Christianity
I'll
and
be back in a
Judaism.
second.
I myself, I'm a lesbian. I didn't come out until I was older, like an adult. But a lot of that was rooted because I have such a devout Muslim family. It's like if I come out, like my mind's going many places. It's not just gonna be like a normal American family coming out. Like I have very abrasive Muslim dad. I don't really see my gayness coinciding with religion, like an organized religion.
I think that Islam has no moral standing to say that two consenting queer adults can't be in love while allowing a man to have sexual relationships with his slave. I couldn't rationalize how that is okay, but two gay or lesbian or whatever adults who are in a loving relationship, they're fully consensual, there's no power dynamic, that's bad.
My question is if it's okay for two consenting, for example, males who have love for each other to conduct sexual intercourse, then what is the problem with two brothers who have love for each other and they're consenting to have sex with
That's
each other?
not the same.
How is it not the same?
Incest and you're comparing incest and homosexuality.
100%. Please explain the difference.
Disrespect.
I'm not gonna lie, that's
Explain the
really
difference.
offensive.
Either way,
How is it offensive?
Either way.
Damn it. I lost.
Very offensive.
Explain the difference. Explain the difference. It's very relevant because it's
One
become
is
objective
incest,
morality.
one is I've done a 23andMe. Me and my girlfriend are not related at all.
Okay.
So one is,
but what is the difference? What is the difference? They're both
Let's make
consenting and they both love each other.
Can I say something?
Why is there a bunch of gay
That's as
people on
wrong
this?
as a brother and a sister consenting and
Yeah.
having sex.
Exactly.
I
Okay,
agree.
so what's the
I
problem
agree.
with that?
What do you mean?
How,
I'm
you're
asking
comparing
how is-
incest
how
with
is-
homosexuality.
Okay, because they both come from the same point. There's two
Oh,
people
they-
who consent to having sex together. It's
Yeah,
the same
exactly,
exact
yeah.
thing. So what's the
Why
difference?
is
If they
it
love for
scientific
methods of
thing?
socialization.
But both
What
of
is the
them are
what is the
degenerate.
problem with them if they both consenting and they both have love for each other, just like two males who don't know each other have love for each other? What is the problem?
I just
want
want to say, you just did this thing in public speaking called minimizing an issue, and then you're trying to find this correlation that like simply does not exist.
What I'm doing is actually addressing the principle, which is coming from objective morality. So I'm trying to figure out, if this is wrong, if homosexuality is okay, then what makes incest not okay?
Let me tell you something. Let me say, what you are bringing up is not relevant. It is not. It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with two men who are not related.
It has everything to do.
They're not on the same principle.
Let's let people talk for like at least.
But when I want to talk, I get interrupted. So no, we're not going to do that.
You're interrupting everyone too. So it's really offensive for you to make these arguments when you are constantly
Every
interrupting.
time I speak, I'm getting interrupted. I let y'all speak every single time, and then
let's have no one interrupt each other.
I just want this question answered. Like simply put, what's wrong with two brothers?
Can I answer the question?
Yeah,
please.
Okay,
disgusting.
so
that's what's wrong with
I feel like it's very obvious that incest is wrong because one, if you have a child with this person, there might be something wrong with it. Not to mention that
he was talking
if
about
somebody
two
has known
brothers
you since you
doing
were
it.
born, the influence that they'll have over your life is different than if you made the choice to actually be with them.
Exactly.
That's why it's wrong. Here's the thing about homosexuality, because you would think that I'm homophobic because, you know, like, I guess everybody assumes I'm like extra pious and whatever because I cover my face, right?
Repair. Oh,
Actually,
there we go.
one of my
Repair.
parents is a member of the LGBT community. I grew up with some
Sweet.
cousins that were. I had friends that were all throughout elementary school and high school and stuff. I never saw morally something wrong with it. I think that the reason that it was put into Quran is simply about sustainability. You can't sustain life on Earth if people, like the majority of the population, are homosexual. I don't think it was to say that anybody's better than anybody else.
All right,
We all have the capacity for love. We all just want to love and be loved.
My question is the idea that there's two consenting individuals that want to have sexual intercourse, regardless of their backgrounds. What is wrong with that?
Because we're not saying that that's the only determiner here. We're saying between two men who have not grown up together, who are not brother and brother. So it's two different things. They are two different things.
Okay, so let's say there's two estranged brothers that never grew up together.
My honest answer to you.
Can we pause? I would like to hear, Jad, you can make a final statement. I'd like to hear from Atia. And can we keep it about homosexuality? So let's close up incest.
You want to bring up the point about how incest results in, there's obviously things that come harm that can come from that. There's also harm that has been proven to come from homosexual intercourse and a man having intercourse with another man.
You can get
all the STDs. Yeah, of course,
STDs are
100%.
rampant in heterosexual
100%.
Yeah,
but it's been scientifically proven that STDs are more in homosexual relationships.
Heterosexual people get
Gay
STDs
people
too.
get
So your argument
STDs.
of homosexual people get more STDs.
But homosexual people are
That's why it's wrong.
creating, there's new STDs that are resulting from this type of intercourse that's happening, and it's found a lot more
Can
you give me an example of
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
so a very recent scientifically proven one was monkeypox. That the overwhelming literature.
That was literally, you were saying, you were projecting a stereotype. It literally became a stereotype against gay men.
How is scientific literature a stereotype?
It was what are you
so the
sourcing here? Because you have clearly believed all of the Google articles about how it was only attributed to the gay community. That's my opinion.
I mean,
that's it. Monkeypox was ridiculous.
I really wish that this conversation was like a bit more about like the impact, the fact that it's sinful in Islam and like the effect that it has on like youth.
Exactly.
I think that like I firsthand know the experience and the hardship people go through when they grow up in a community when they have never even heard of homosexuality. And then the first time they hear about it is disgust. The way our societies are structured, we hate on the fact that they even exist. We don't want our children to be that. We don't want people in our communities to be around that. We don't want to allow people who are homosexual in our mosques. So I'm getting really emotional about this because there are just so many people I've seen. There are so many people who have lost their lives because they just could not exist. And so to minimize somebody's life and to like hate on them for this one part of their life that is that's supposed to be so private is not okay, and it's not Islamic. Personally, I didn't step in here to say that it's outdated because I don't want to make a statement about my faith that I wasn't. This is something that I always struggled with. But I'm not going to say it's outdated because I just don't know why it is the way it is, and I choose not to question it because I'm a Muslim. But at the same time, I do have like a lot of pain associated with that truth because I have seen how that impacts people's lives. And I think that like at the end of the day, like I wish we lived in a world where we saw the fact that, like, as human beings, we have free will. Therefore, just how I have the free will to practice my religion and, like, not entertain a homosexual relationship, the same way anybody else has the ability to not be religious, to practice homosexuality, and to coexist respectfully. And that's something that sometimes Muslims can't offer, and that is my problem. And I wish we offered that so that we wouldn't lose people's lives the way that we do. We wouldn't push people away. We wouldn't traumatize them and generations to come.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. The fact that
versatility, all electric for short trips, combustion.
It's very important that we understand, regardless of what Islam.
All right, let's watch this video.
When the Palestinians broke through the fence, they put the F-35s on
trailers.
Like, all of these people are celebrating like a terror attack, right? All of these people are celebrating a terror attack.
Come on,
Holy
come on.
And it's in New York City. I just had a fucking brain blast. Honest to God,
Gamble.
Here is the.
Times.
I don't know if I've ever talked about this before. This is the one thing. This is one of the biggest. I don't normally have a lot of like boom moments in my life where I'm like, oh my God, my whole political ideology is changing. There was one thing that happened to me when I was, I think it was 15 or 16, that started to radically change my political beliefs, that started to set me down reevaluating. I think this is what changed me from Republican to Libertarian, and then eventually I went from Libertarian to left. And it was when I saw people who were in New York City who were protesting the construction of new mosques. It was a new mosque that was kind of close to, I think it was in Manhattan. It might have been kind of close to Ground Zero. And I saw those protests happening, and I was like, hey, 9/11 was crazy, I agree, but part of the coolest thing about the United States is that, like, we always have, like, freedom of religion. We always have these types of freedoms. How are you going to go and protest religious people building, like, a house of worship? That was like a, and I don't know if you call it a radicalization or anti-radicalization, I guess it depends on your perspective. That was a moment for me where I was like, bro, this is not cool. That was one of the big things that turned me off. And I had written articles for my school newspaper, like supporting, Bush and supporting the war in Iraq. I was a hardcore Republican, but that was a huge wake-up moment for me. I was like, what the?
Why would you support the war in Iraq?
If I was a conservative today, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, if 9/11 happened today with Twitter, I wonder if I would be radicalized seeing Twitter's response into being a lifelong conservative. I wonder if that moment would be so strong for me that it would be like 5 years of radicalization. Could you imagine if 9/11 happened today and people like Hassan, like as firefighters are going into the building, are saying to like, well, this is what happens when America does this, or like cheering as the planes go into the building? Because he would. Don't make any mistake about that. That Hassan would have a stream celebrating and cheering between Towers 1 and 2 getting hit by airplanes. He absolutely would. He would do it.
Let's all attack this guy.
Or any of these other leftist
dipshits
fuck him
on Twitter,
up,
the strongest
right?
guy.
Or as the first tower falls, right?
Yeah,
Emma
Hassan
would be tweeting out, today we need to remember about all of the atrocities committed in the Middle East by the United States, right? That would absolutely happen. I don't know what impact that would have on my mind if I existed in that time period and I was watching that happen on Twitter. I think I might I don't even know. I might go hardcore conservative. Holy shit. But Jesus
so you're
Christ.
saying that the reason why you become
I'm sorry, back to watching
why
this.
you have your political views is
You've
just
grown up with a brain, so you
opposition
wouldn't go
to
full
a
retard.
different.
I mean, I was a kid back
to
then.
the
That's something
different
this happened when I was a
political
kid.
view. That
If Twitter would have
like,
been, if Twitter would have existed during 9/11, I don't know
reactionary.
where I'd be right now.
Most of the time, reactionaries are.
There's a norm. Is there a norm bit on this? Uh-oh.
Oh no, there's more coming.
Well, I can't say my friend's name, but he said his biggest fear is
Bro, Norm Macdonald is so fucking funny. I love Norm Macdonald.
that ISIS or some terrorist group like that will get a hold of a dirty bomb and explode it over a major city within the United States and kill tens of millions of people. Because then the blowback against innocent Muslims would be absolutely terrible.
Yes, that's rude.
That's true.
That was funny. I like how they're just agreeing with him and it's obviously a joke.
All right, let's do some jokes.
Jesus. Okay. Wait, did the people on the show not understand the joke, or did they just not laugh on the joke or that show? Or am I thinking of that joke way differently than he intended? I'm so confused right now. Yeah. Was the joke that like why is that the first place your mind goes to?
Yeah.
Or okay.
I mean, I think that's what the joke was,
I feel like
but I don't get why they like agreed with something that was obviously a joke.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. A Palestinian woman says that the Hamas terror attacks in Israel are inspiring, beautiful, and a success. She says this at a street rally in Brighton, from the safety and comfort of the United Kingdom. I don't know how to pronounce this.
For me, yesterday was a victory. As a Palestinian, yesterday was a victory. For freedom fighters in Gaza to break out of a 15-year blockade so successfully under the inhumane genocide from Israel was so beautiful and inspiring to see. It shows us that it shows us as Palestinians, and it shows the world as us from Palestinians, that we will always fight and we will always.
I hate immigrants. I like all of them, like all the white ones and the blah blah blah. Here's what I hate about immigrants. Okay, no offense to immigrants. Okay? But I hate it when immigrants are living in a country their entire lives and they still have this ultra strong identification with the place they come from, and they speak like they have like some shit to say about it. Like, bro, like when people in the United States like, oh yeah, like I'm Palestinian. Right, like, you're not Palestinian, motherfucker. You're from Los Angeles and you've lived here your entire life. Okay, you're American. Shut the up with this crying for the. When was the last time you were in the Middle East? Have you even been on a plane before in your life? Get the out of here, right? Now, maybe that particular lady does have stronger ties to this place, but like, if you've never set foot in Palestine before, and you sure as aren't going back there if people like this take over, then shut up. You're British, okay? You're British. Or you're American, okay? Get the out of here, right? If you came from those places, or you know what? If you've at least visited once in the past 5 years, I'll give you credit. Or once in the past 10 years, I'll give you credit, okay? Once in the past 10 years, I'll give you credit. But other than that, out of here, all right? Have you ever been oppressed in a blockade before? My parents would ban me from internet access past 7 p.m. sometimes.
There we go.
Okay? 7 p.m. sometimes. Do you know what suffering is like?
Resist, and we need to celebrate these acts of resistance, because this is a success. Revolutionary violence initiated by Palestinians is not terrorism. It is self-defense.
Yeah, it kind of is.
Encouraging the liberation of Palestinian people who have been under illegal occupation for 75 years.
Why doesn't Hamas attack Egypt for their blockade? Now, this is a total guess, and I could be totally wrong, okay? So this is all on intuition. My guess would be is that if Hamas attacked Egypt, Egypt would destroy Gaza. They would be like, I'm sorry, do you think we're some Western cucks? Excuse me? That'd be my guess. I could be totally wrong. I could be totally wrong, but that would be a guess. I don't know. Somebody can email me or tell me if I'm incorrect on that. But also, I think Egypt has like a whole bunch of their own shit going on too. But also, so does Israel, right? But
I'm gonna leave you with this. This is not a Muslim issue. This is not an Arab issue. This is not a Palestinian issue. This is a human rights issue.
Oh, British. Here. Get the fuck out of here. What year is it? Okay, sorry. I just wanted to see the videos of this.
To be free and flexible and creative was really essential to what I wanted to make, and I didn't find a platform that did that other than Wix.
Well, howdy there, Internet people. It's Bo again. So today we are going to talk about Cheese Bro and Trump and Jordan, because we have a whole bunch of events occurring simultaneously right now that really kind of help wrap up the week's coverage. And we'll just kind of run through the events real quick and
oh man, I thought
go
I might
from
have been
there.
Winning.
Okay, so we will start with the news regarding Cheese Bro.
Oh no, their people are coming
According
fucking
to
back.
reports at time of filming, Chesebro is in the process of entering a guilty plea. It appears that he came to some agreement with the state.
Now he is?
The terms of that agreement, this is early, so this is early reports. Early reports are almost never right, but this is what it appears to be. 1 felony count, 5 years probation. It could be shortened to 3 if he's a good little boy. $5,000 fine or restitution. An agreement to provide evidence in the future. The apology letter, maybe that's a standard thing in Georgia. And there is some conflicting reports. There are conflicting reports when it comes to maybe community service. But even if it is there, it wasn't a lot. And so that's it. There won't be a trial because everybody that was going to be tried at this point in time has decided to enter a guilty plea. Expect this to play out in the future. Similar scenarios. I said that generally speaking, the agreements have to be reached before jury selection.
Holy shit.
This was cutting it a little close because my understanding is they'd already been given the questionnaires. But in future cases, you will see people go through pretrial motions and try to get their case thrown out, try to position themselves in a better way. And then if it doesn't work, they enter a plea. Frankly, this is absolutely devastating to Trump's defense cases and his co-defendants. And it is probably sending a lot of apprehension through Trump circles. Okay, so that's where that sits at the moment. Meanwhile, in New York, a judge is basically saying, hey, attorneys that are representing Trump, give me a reason not to throw him in jail right now. Y'all remember the social media post that the judge ordered removed? Well, it apparently got removed from social media, but it was still on a website managed, I guess, by the Trump team in some way.
Why are they so
I
damaged?
believe Midas
I
Touch
just got them.
were the people who caught that.
Maybe
And
this
so
is-
the judge and the attorneys up there are having a little discussion about that. The judge does not seem happy at all. Can't wait till he finds out about the other one, the other post involving the address of the prosecutor. Okay, so that's happening. My guess is we won't get a resolution on that today. It's possible that we do, but we probably won't hear the end of that today. Now, meanwhile, in D.C., Jordan tried yet again to get the vote to become the Speaker of the House. It did not go well. In fact, it went worse. Now, 25 Republicans are voting against him. That does not seem like something that's in the cards. And remember, Trump threw all of his weight behind Jordan. Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives are not just rejecting Jordan when they do this. They are rejecting Trump.
Bunch
They're
of fucking
rejecting his
rhino
influence
pieces of shit,
and his
in my
leadership. It matters. And then one thing that is completely unrelated to this, there are reports breaking right now that 2 American captives are being released. There are people that want to credit Biden's trip and the aid with this. Maybe that may be true, but I would not jump to that conclusion yet. There have been a lot of people with state, there have been a lot of people with other agencies that have been over there working on this. I don't necessarily think it is the aid. I don't think that's it. It could be, but that seems unlikely. I would hold off until there is more information, and the former captives themselves, not just are they out of harm's way, but they have been debriefed and interviewed. You'll find out a whole bunch more from them than you're going to find out from anything else, because when they talk, they will they'll probably have a pretty clear understanding of what happened, and they will be able to say more than anybody involved with State Department. Okay, so I guess that's it. That looks like all of the news, but yeah, I would expect more Trump co-defendants in the Georgia case to take deals. I would imagine that you're going to have a couple almost right away, and then the rest are going to kind of hold themselves and wait until just before trial. Anyway, it's just a thought. Y'all have a good day.
Well, folks, last night Joe Biden gave a speech in the Oval Office that was intended to stir support for the state of Israel in its fight against terrorism. And in the middle of that speech, he started just jabbering about the peace process. Presumably, the helpers in that peace process on the Palestinian side will be the Palestinian Authority. There's only one problem, which is that they largely support the goals of Hamas. Here's Joe Biden.
Look, at the same time, President Netanyahu and I discussed again yesterday the critical need for Israel to operate by the laws of war. That means protecting civilians in combat as best as they can. The people of Gaza urgently need food, water, and medicine. Yesterday, in discussions with the leaders of Israel and Egypt, I secured an agreement for the first shipment of humanitarian assistance from the United Nations to Palestinian civilians in Gaza. If Hamas does not divert or steal these shipments, we're going to provide an opening for sustained delivery of life-saving humanitarian assistance for the Palestinians.
Okay, so question. There's still 200 hostages being held by Hamas in Gaza. Where do you think that money's going to go? What distributive mechanism do you have for that money? The answer is they have no distributive mechanism. How do we know that? It's because they're openly admitting it. So, for example, here is a Biden State Department spokesperson explaining, his name is Matt Miller, that sure, Hamas might steal the cash. This is literally yesterday.
That's really stupid.
The concern the Israeli government has, and they've said this publicly, and they certainly said it privately to us, is that any assistance that goes in will be diverted once it's inside Gaza. That there's not an Israeli military force in Gaza. There's not a UN peacekeeping force in Gaza. The people with guns inside Gaza are Hamas, and so Hamas may try to divert this assistance and keep it from getting to the civilians who it is intended for. We think that's a legitimate concern. We've made clear that this aid needs to go to innocent civilians and not Hamas. We're going to be watching very carefully how it's delivered because we want to be sensitive to those concerns, which we share.
Oh, well, you're going to be watching carefully. Well, that's important, is that if you watch really carefully, if you use your binoculars from afar, which is what you will be doing, then probably Hamas won't steal that aid. By the way, if you don't believe him, you could also listen to the Biden Deputy NSA Director, John Feiner, who basically said, we trust Hamas, the terrorists. Like, well, we'll just give them $100 million. They'll probably be fine.
The president pledged $100 million in an aid package to Palestinian civilians, innocent civilians in Gaza and the West Bank. How is the United States going to ensure that none of that ends up in the hands of Hamas?
Getting assistance into Gaza is a complicated undertaking. It involves essentially securing an understanding among Hamas fighters who control the checkpoint on the other side of the border, among the government of Israel and among the government of Egypt.
But the question is, from what you just said, is the U.S. then essentially in a position where it has to take the word of Hamas that it will not be taken? I mean, what other guarantee can there be?
We believe there is an understanding now among all of the players who control that crossing, the Rafah crossing in Egypt.
Oh, there's an understanding, is there, with Hamas? Well, that changes everything, as long as there's an understanding. So again, this is the kind of weakness that invites further terrorism, that invites further exploration of American weakness. Again, Joe Biden kept going along these lines. So again, he kept over and over and over pushing on this two-state solution stuff in the middle of a war against people who are dedicated to Israel's destruction and the murder of Jews. He kept pushing on it like over and over last night. And when that wasn't enough, he then started ripping on American Islamophobia. Yeah, I have a question. There is a horrible, horrible, evil case of a demented person, an evil person who should get the death penalty, killing a 6-year-old Palestinian kid in America. That horrible, evil, condemned by literally everyone. Everyone. Meanwhile, they're in mass protests across the United States on behalf of Hamas. So naturally, Joe Biden is going to put heavy emphasis on Islamophobia in the United States and lecturing the American people that we can't be Islamophobic in this moment, and then reminding us of how Islamophobic we were after 9/11, which is weird because there's not a lot of evidence to suggest mass Islamophobia in the aftermath of 9/11, not by hate crime statistics from the FBI. In any case, here is Joe Biden. Again, this is the middle of a speech in the aftermath of the worst terror attack on Jews, the worst slaughter of Jews, the worst pogrom against Jews since the Holocaust, followed by widespread public demonstrations in favor of the massacring, in favor of the terrorists. And Joe Biden's like, well, we do have to worry about how intolerant you, the American people, are. You might be Islamophobic. Watch yourselves. Everyone here at the office loves the Genucel Dark Spot Corrector. You might be asking what that product even does. Well, if you have sunspots, dark spots, discoloration, dry skin, the Genucel Dark Spot Corrector will help those blemishes disappear. Kimberly from Youngstown, Ohio, app that offers a unique approach to prayer and meditation. Unlike other meditation apps, Hallow is tailored specifically for people of faith to deepen their relationship with God. The Hallow app is filled with studies, meditations, and reflections rooted in Judeo. Shapiro. Here was Joe Biden last night.
You know, and here at home, we have to be honest with ourselves. In recent years, too much hate has given too much oxygen, fueling racism, the rise of anti-Semitism, and Islamic phobia, right here in America. It's also intensified in the wake of recent events that led to the horrific threats and attacks that both shock us and break our hearts. On October 7th, terror attacks have triggered deep scars and terrible memories in the Jewish community. Today, Jewish families worried about being targeted in school, wearing symbols of their faith walking down the street, or going out about their daily lives. You know, I know many of you in the Muslim American community.
Bro, is this Jewish?
The Palestinian American community.
Is that what Jewish is? That's fucking
And so
hilarious.
many others are outraged and heartened, saying to yourselves, here we go again with Islamophobia and distrust we saw.
Oh, I know that's my chief worry today. I know that as the Jewish people are under existential threat in Israel, my deep worry is that there are offended Palestinian Americans in America who are marching with Hamas flags. I know that is deeply worrying to me. By the way, what he's saying about the Jewish community in the United States, that's 100% true. Okay, every Jew that I know in the state of Florida is arming up. Every single one, without exception. I spent part of yesterday at a gun range. The entirety of people at the gun range were Orthodox Jews, all of them. There's a reason for that. And it's because Hamas has called for global terror and Hezbollah has called for global terror. And there is a DHS notification that has gone out globally to basically everybody about the rise in this. And so Joe Biden focusing like a laser beam on what matters, Islamophobia, as always, because Americans, you know, we're the real problem. We're the real problem. He also made sure to point out that
There's been a few interesting cases recently, all of which have a lot to do with self-defense. So let's talk about them. As always, each event involves someone's death, so I'm not going to be playing these video clips all the way through. The most high-profile one certainly has to be the killing of Ryan Carson. A security camera caught the event. Carson was out with his girlfriend at 4 a.m., having a night on the town in New York City. They sat at a bench for a minute while his future stabber, 18-year-old Brian Dowling, walked by. Down at the end of the street, just at the edge of the camera's field of vision, Dowling begins to yell and kick something. I can't tell if he's knocking over garbage cans or he's kicking a parked car. Carson and his girlfriend, walking the same way as the commotion, are aggressively approached by Dowling. Carson is keeping him at arm's length, saying stuff like calm down and chill, while Dowling is bouncing around and saying, I'm gonna kill you. At one point, Dowling slaps Carson, shouting, "What's up?" repeatedly, causing Carson to run away. At the same time, Dowling slips his hand into his pocket and pulls out a knife. Carson ends up tripping over the same bench he began the video sitting on, due to running blindly while keeping his eyes on Dowling behind him. While on the ground, Dowling stabs Carson 3 times, killing him. Afterward, Carson's girlfriend continues to say, "Hey, hey," oblivious to her boyfriend bleeding out on the ground. I don't think she noticed the knife, as Dowling pulled it out very quickly, and the angle would have made it out of her sight. Dowling responds by spitting in her face and threatening to stab her too before leaving. It's only after Dowling leaves that she notices her boyfriend is dead. Another passerby comes up and instructs her to take care of Carson while she pursues Dowling. The internet very quickly discovered that Ryan Carson was a leftist activist. He worked for the New
I want to see what I didn't watch this. I was paying attention to my...
of Ryan Carson. A security camera caught the event. Carson was out with his girlfriend at 4 a.m. having a night on the town in New York City. They sat at a bench for a minute while his future stabber, 18-year-old Brian Dowling, walked by. Down at the end of the street, just at the edge of the camera's field of vision, Dowling begins to yell and kick something. I can't tell if he's knocking over garbage cans or he's kicking a parked car. Carson and his girlfriend, walking the same way as the commotion, are aggressively approached by Dowling. Carson is keeping him at arm's length, saying stuff like calm down and chill, while Dowling is bouncing around and saying I'm gonna kill you. At one point, Dowling slaps Carson, shouting "What's up?" repeatedly, causing Carson to run away. At the same time, Dowling slips his hand into his pocket and pulls out a knife. Carson ends up tripping over the same bench he began the video sitting on, due to running blindly while keeping his eyes on Dowling behind him. While on the ground, Dowling stabs Carson 3 times, killing him. Pocket and pulls out a knife. Carson ends up tripping over the same bench he began the video sitting on, due to running blindly while keeping his eyes on Dowling behind him.
Wait. Sorry.
Calm down and chill, while Dowling is bouncing around and saying I'm gonna kill you. At one point, Dowling slaps Carson, shouting "What's up?" repeatedly.
Wait.
Kicking a parked car. Okay. Carson and his girlfriend, walking the same way as the commotion, are aggressively approached by Dowling. Carson is keeping him at arm's length, saying stuff like calm down and chill, while Dowling is bouncing around and saying I'm gonna kill you. At one point, Dowling slaps Carson, shouting "What's up?" repeatedly, causing Carson to run away. At the same time, Dowling slips his hand into his pocket and pulls out a knife. Carson ends up tripping over the same bench he began the video sitting on, due to running blindly while keeping his eyes on Dowling behind him. While on the ground, Dowling stabs Carson 3 times, killing him. Afterward, Carson's girlfriend continues to say, "Hey, hey," oblivious to her boyfriend bleeding out on the ground. I don't think she noticed the knife, as Dowling pulled it out very quickly, and the angle would have made it out of her sight. Dowling responds by spitting in her face and threatening to stab her too before leaving. It's only after Dowling leaves that she notices her boyfriend is dead. Another passerby comes up and instructs her to take care of Carson.
I wonder why it's bad right now. It looks like it's going fine. It's kind of slower though. But all right. We'll keep streaming. So, what the fuck happened?
Him. While on the ground, Dowling stabs Carson 3 times, killing him. Afterward, Carson's girlfriend continues to say, "Hey, hey," oblivious to her boyfriend bleeding out on the ground. I don't think she noticed the knife, as Dowling pulled it out very quickly, and the angle would have made it out of her sight. Dowling responds by spitting in her face and threatening to stab her too before leaving. It's only after Dowling leaves that she notices her boyfriend is dead. Another passerby comes up and instructs her to take care of Carson, while she pursues Dowling. The internet very quickly discovered that Ryan Carson was a leftist activist. He worked for the New York Public Interest Research Group, a left-leaning nonprofit focused on environmentalism. He was also involved in the creation of so-called safe drug use sites in the city. Chuck Schumer said he worked with him on Democrat town hall events and considered him a rising talent in activism. He gave an interview back in October of 2020 where he described himself as a leftist poet and that he made his living as a community organizer and a tenant organizer. I was gonna say, yeah, his poetry is god-awful, so I hope he had a day job. But that day job also sounds like nonsense, so I have no idea what the fuck he did to make money. He cited Occupy Wall Street back in his college days as his first real exposure to the activist struggle, and he considered his artwork essential to bridging the divide between ivory tower socialism and the actual working class of New York City. His social media accounts are filled with leftist slogans and messaging, including BLM, ACAB, and funnily enough, a prediction that he was going to die by being shot by a right-winger while attending a leftist protest, rather than being stabbed by the black inner-city youth that actually killed him. There's only so much we can pull off of his old social media accounts though, because as soon as his old posts began to go viral due to the hypocrisy of it all, somebody got a hold of his Twitter and Instagram and privated them both. I will very quickly point out that in attempting to find information on this guy, I discovered a completely different person named Ryan Carson. A tech startup dude whose biggest claim to fame is creating the online education app Treehouse, which he sold for a mountain of cash. This is a different Ryan Carson. I've seen multiple articles and multiple YouTubers now say that the hippy-dippy New York activist Ryan Carson started Treehouse. No, he didn't. These are two different guys. Our Ryan Carson can barely write poems, let alone computer code. In the wake of Carson's death, his girlfriend, Claudia Morales, pictured here wearing an ACAB shirt herself, set up a GoFundMe. Was the GoFundMe for funeral costs? Nope. A lawsuit against Dowling? Absolutely not. In fact, his friends insist that Carson would have viewed his stabber as a victim of the system. Did he have kids to provide for, or a family or something? No. The GoFundMe is for, per their own words, offsetting the costs of working class people taking time off of work to properly mourn. In other words, they just want money. My boyfriend got stabbed, give me money. I didn't even notice that my boyfriend got stabbed initially, still give me money. I failed to identify my boyfriend's stabber in a police lineup, give me money. Really, that happened. However, in order to describe this part of the story, we need to talk about social media spin. The New York Daily News, as written in their article on Brian Dowling's arrest, reported that Morales was given a photo lineup of various suspects and mispicked Carson's attacker. The Daily Mail took this story and ran with the October 7th headline that this fuck-up was potentially crippling to the prosecution's case, which is the screen cap that went viral online. But that phrase, potentially crippling, that was the opinion of a former prosecutor who's not involved with the case. The New York Post reported a day earlier, on the 6th, that 2 other witnesses to the event positively identified Dowling in a lineup, and those identifications were included in the indictment. The judge ordered Dowling held without bail, and his October 11th court appearance showed him in an orange prison jumpsuit. Dowling's friends and family all describe him as a good boy going to college, all that stereotypical nonsense you'd expect, but they don't want to admit that somebody they know is a murderer, or a druggie murderer. However, Morales' failure to identify Dowling in a lineup, and the fact that one former prosecutor believes the flub may cripple the prosecution's case, morphed into something completely different on Twitter. Here's a viral tweet, 2.8 million views. Ryan Carson, the victim, is having his legacy absolutely destroyed by those around him. His girlfriend refused to give police a proper description of the attacker because she didn't want a stereotype. His friends are running GoFundMe campaigns to take time off work and grieve. In this retelling of the event, Morales' failure is turned into deliberate obstruction, with the completely invented justification of she didn't want a stereotype. Seriously, the story is already fucked enough, with the GoFundMe not going to Carson's family or his funeral expenses? You don't need to invent shit like this. And yet, that's what the internet did. This is the girl that calmly watched her boyfriend get stabbed to death. After he died, she didn't want to give a description of the killer to police because she didn't want to spread racial stereotypes. None of this is true, and yet it also went viral. When I watch that security camera footage, I don't see a woman who calmly watched her boyfriend get stabbed to death. I see a woman who is exceptionally naive and clueless and probably stupid. But the way she's described, it's like there's this narrative that she wanted this to happen. Since then, people have come up with some wild theories about how she was actually in on it, or she's gonna fuck Dowling, or how she viewed her boyfriend as utterly disposable in the face of accomplishing the socialist project. And while those all make for some pretty funny memes sometimes, they're ultimately not true. Morales' own Twitter account is full of her futile attempts to refute these claims, while talking about her best memories with Carson, sharing old photos, talking about putting him to rest. This doesn't strike me as a person who planned this, or coldly didn't give a shit about her boyfriend or anything like that. I mean, this is all online, it could be entirely fake. But she is acting the way that you'd expect somebody whose boyfriend was just murdered to act. And this narrative that she's ruthless and cold-hearted or whatever, that seems to be entirely spun up by online right-wingers. But at this point, the conversation about the event has overshadowed the event itself. Rightoids are making fun of the hypocrisy of Carson's killing, with some true facts and some made-up bullshit, about how he was murdered by the target of his own activism, and how his activist support group fed his fresh corpse back into the activist machine. Meanwhile, leftoids are complaining about the heartlessness and cruelty of the right, making fun of a victim who isn't even cold yet, and singling out the right's own inaccuracies to drive the point home. Yeah, some rightoids did embellish the story, and clearly don't care about pursuing the truth. But some leftoids are out here clutching their pearls about making fun of the recently deceased, when they've all got examples in their post history of them making fun of the death of somebody they politically oppose. Both are disgusting to me. I reject moral judgment from any of these people. I've seen what makes them cheer. One point that the right is spot on about, though, is that leftist de-escalation tactics and understanding and compassion and all that shit is no substitute for self-defense. Those things can be good tools in some situations, but sometimes you're faced with a guy who wants to fuck you up and can't be talked down, and you just need to be ready to defend yourself. Carson's murder was clearly one of those times. He specced too much into charisma and not enough into strength. I've spoken about this before. I think that video was in the context of home invasions, but there's this segment at the left that is very anti-self-defense. Not because they're anti-violence on principle, they are revolutionaries in the end, but because they believe the legitimacy of violence doesn't stem from who started the fight or who's acting in defense of human life. Certainly not if it's in defense of property. Instead, it stems from which individual is more or less privileged. A poor black man aggressively stabbing a well-to-do white man is morally justified due to the power dynamics of those two demographic groups in our society, which is why so many of Carson's friends opted to view his stabber as a victim and exclaimed that Carson would have as well. Examining the psych data on morality shows us that it's because left-leaning people tend to place more moral consideration on things that are further away from them, like the whole universe, or all animals, or all humans, while right-leaning people tend to place more moral consideration on things that are closer to them, like their family, their friends, their coworkers, their classmates, their acquaintances. Again, I've done a whole video on that topic too if you want to check it out. But let's examine the right's self-defense view more closely by checking out a different event. Did you guys hear about that YouTube prankster who got shot back in May? The viral clip is only 40 seconds long, and even though the event happened in May, it didn't go viral till September. There's two guys here, three if you count the cameraman, prowling around a food court in a mall looking to prank people for their YouTube channel. The main guy's name is Tanner Cook. He runs the prank channel Classified Goons. He and his pal go up to this random dude in the food court, later identified as Alan Coley, and begin shoving their phones in his face. Coley tells them to leave him alone multiple times, and begins walking away, but they don't leave him alone. Cook's body language and facial expressions and tone of voice could be interpreted as threatening throughout the video. Coley asks him to stop 3 times, and when he refuses, he pulls out a gun right in the food court and shoots him in the stomach. Now, watching the video back, it all escalates very quickly, and the knee-jerk reaction a lot of people online had was, yeah, YouTube pranksters are fucking annoying, especially when they're in public trying to rope you into their shit, but does this really qualify as self-defense? Cook didn't actually threaten him, he was simply annoying.
Didn't the courts decide that it was self-defense? Maybe they have more evidence than what we do, you know?
He just didn't leave him alone. My immediate reaction to this was that Coley jumped to shooting him way too quickly. But now, go back and compare this event to Carson's stabbing. Look how quickly that event escalated from guy approaching you quickly spouting gibberish to guy stabs you 3 times and kills you. It was a matter of seconds. If Cook wasn't a YouTube prankster, but instead someone who was intent on stabbing randoms at the food court, this situation would probably look pretty similar. And if Coley didn't have his gun, he probably would have been stabbed in that scenario. So I can understand why Coley felt threatened in that moment. But on the flip side of things, I'm not sure if I like the idea of every minor encounter like this always being escalated to deadly force, simply because of the possibility that the other side could also use deadly force. I understand why it happens, but I still don't like it. By the way, the jury acquitted Alan Coley of most charges, believing that he acted in self-defense. That doesn't mean that he's off scot-free, though. He was still found guilty of unlawfully firing a gun in an occupied building, and he remains in jail until his sentencing in December. If you believe that Coley was legitimately frightened by Cook, that probably sounds pretty unfair. But if you believe that Coley jumped the gun, quite literally, then it probably sounds like he got away with attempted murder. Both of these stories show that a physical altercation can move into deadly territory in just a few seconds. In Carson's case, he failed to respect that, and he was stabbed to death. In Coley's case, he misjudged the situation and shot a dumb kid. But this should shine some light on why, for example, Daniel Penny thought it was appropriate to put Jordan Neely in a chokehold when he began lashing out on the New York subway. Whether or not you think Penny held him in the hold for too long and killed him, or just made a mistake, or whatever, the point is that when somebody begins freaking out in public, especially when he begins saying things like, I'm gonna kill somebody, you don't know if he's just acting like a retard, or if he's actually gonna pull out a weapon and begin attacking people. And because it's not so simple, you can't just call Daniel Penny a murderer and Jordan Neely the next BLM martyr. By the way, now that Daniel Penny's been brought up, another instance of a rightoid embellishing the truth on this topic came out of the Twitter account Anti-Whitewatch, who disingenuinely compared the treatment of Penny by the cops and the media to their treatment of Brian Dowling. Of course, he fails to point out that the Penny picture is him attending a trial that is already underway, while the initial arrest of Dowling was before his identity was announced by the cops of the court system. The media has no problem displaying Dowling in all of his orange jumpsuit glory, as I showed earlier, but that wouldn't fit the narrative that Anti-Whitewatch wants to craft. So, what's the answer here? I'm not sure. It doesn't feel right to me that Coley's going to jail because he defended himself and thought he was in legitimate danger. But it also doesn't feel right to me that if anybody gets in your face in public, you should be able to just immediately escalate to shooting them in the name of personal safety. It also feels weird, to be honest, to say the phrase, safety isn't the most important thing to right-leaning people. I tend to have to explain that point to left-leaning people generally. Every time you go outside of your house, the chance that a random person just up and kills you rises a little bit. It's not very high, but it's a non-zero chance. Does that justify shooting anyone you see just because you feel threatened?
being in
your
own house,
who wants to end up like Carson, bleeding out on the street because you were so soy-cocked you had no defensive capabilities at all? The only advice I can offer, guys, is remain alert. Rewatch those two clips again, Carson's stabbing and Cook's shooting. In the seconds leading up to both events, you can pretty clearly see what's going on. Cook is clearly a dumb kid getting ready to do a dumb prank, and anybody in the food court who looks at him can see it, while Dowling is clearly somebody who's agitated, kicking stuff over and screaming. Most of the time before an altercation takes place, you can tell what's going to happen if you pay attention. The best defense against all of this is not being on autopilot when you're in public and running errands or enjoying an evening or something, but actually being aware of your surroundings. When a real fight is about to break out, you can pretty much taste it in the air.
Where the guy is sitting there and is like analyzing everything that's going on, and he's like, "Oh, that guy looks sketchy. All right, that door." My closest exit is still the one behind me. All right, that door seems to be locked, you know, stuff like that. And then it goes to the woman, and it's like, "Well, making my way downtown, walking fast."
If you're paying attention. All right, guys, that about does it for me. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to hear more of my beautiful voice, Naomi and I recorded a vlog where we watched and talked about Evil Dead 2. That's over on the DevKit channel. And also, Super Mario Wonder comes out today, and I'm going to be streaming it tonight. So make sure you drop in and say hello. It's going to be a lot of fun. Links to both.
Be a digital detective. Enroll in the new Google Cybersecurity Certificate to jump.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on girls that do OnlyFans? Give us the real raw deal.
Honest truth.
Good, bad, and your thoughts.
Nobody's here. There's OnlyFans, so you're good. You're safe.
I mean, I don't respect them because there's other ways, and there's a lot of ways of making money, not only exposing your body. You know, I think it's kind of stupid, but if that's their life. You know, you can't.
So you don't respect them?
No.
Okay. Fair enough. What if they worked like a minimum wage job and then they just decided I could make more money doing this?
But there's other ways to go about it. Why expose your body, which is
right. But OnlyFans came on for the craft. It's not all about taking your clothes off. If you have something that you're good at, you can still do OnlyFans.
All right, hold on, I'll get to you.
Hold on, Grandma.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
We'll come back. All right.
You can show them that you're good at other things.
I'm strong.
Like that. Showing that, like that's something you're supposed to show to one person, not the whole world. You feel me?
No, I agree with you, Mama. I'm on your page.
She's pretty based.
But you disagree. Okay, it's fine.
Just wait your turn.
It's All right. What about you?
That's my apologies. I'm sorry.
What are your thoughts?
I don't judge. Like, I know people who do it. Do I respect it? No. Just because as a female entrepreneur, obviously there's other ways than just using your body. They're taking the fast and easy route, right? So I just think that, you know, there's other ways that you can make money. And but if they want to do it, it's their lives. Like, go ahead.
So you don't respect it. All right, interesting. Okay.
As an entrepreneur.
As an entrepreneur, there's other ways. Like.
Okay. Cool. What about you? What are your thoughts on girls that do OnlyFans? Give it to us raw.
Okay.
Pause.
Pause.
I mean,
I'm sorry. Never mind.
I got
confused. So my thoughts are, I'm very like chill. Like I don't really care. Like you do your thing. You have your own opinions. That's fine. I have my own opinions. If I have to choose whether I respect it or not, I don't respect it. I'm also an entrepreneur as well. And it took me a long time to learn other ways to make money. A lot of other passive incomes. It doesn't come easy, but it definitely takes time to think about that. And like everybody else said so far, it is definitely the easy way out. And I definitely wouldn't do it. Yeah.
Okay. What about you? What are your thoughts on it?
I personally would not do it. I would not go out of my way either to just yell at someone and be like, you do this, like, you're a whore. I wouldn't do that either.
Okay.
But I personally wouldn't do it. I think I wouldn't like the
Do you respect
act.
girls that do it?
Be honest. No one's here.
I would have to say no.
Okay, I am going.
I would have to say no, but
Let me ask you a better question. Would have you been able to land the boyfriend that you currently have had you been doing it?
Absolutely not.
There you go.
Okay. All right. What about you?
But I'm gonna lose this for sure.
I will say it takes like a journey to get there. Like it's not that I understand, but it's like being.
I think after this battle,
like,
I'm going to go to bed.
And I think most of us that are here right now, we're just like super lucky. We have like a support system, like love, family. You don't just like you're born and then you become like an OF person. So I think there's a story.
So
and
you do respect it then?
It tells me something about them.
What does it tell you?
That they have had a rough upbringing.
What about the girls that didn't have a rough upbringing, have both parents, and they decided to do it anyway?
It tells me another thing about them. Like,
What does it say?
maybe they're super sexual. I don't know. Maybe they
So they're
like
sluts.
it. Like,
Just
but
say
I
it.
think it's interesting.
Just say it. Just
that,
say it.
No. I think an interesting part of OF
Yeah.
and females that we don't take into account is like
are
we always
sluts.
assume that the girls
Gamble,
do it
let's
because
see,
they
let's
need
see.
the
Come on,
money.
come
But
on, come
what
on,
if
come on,
some
come on.
girls do it because they actually
Yes.
enjoy it and get off that?
Some girls do.
Exactly, which I think is like we don't talk about it enough. But
Some,
I mean,
some girls get off on like just guys.
weird, like, I don't-
I agree, but what percentage is that versus the
Very
any money?
little.
I don't know.
You know?
It would be it would be interesting because like the statistics show that not all of them are successful. That they're not really making money or enough to pay for rent. So
Even
are
if
you,
they
why
were
are you doing it? Like that's
successful,
my.
I still think
I'm
that's
thinking like, hey,
degenerate.
what if she actually likes it?
I mean, that's a fair
Oh.
question.
I
she's-
don't have no idea.
She's saying basically, it can either be for money or for because they just love sex. But once again, that's a small percentage.
Do you love sex?
Not as much as other people, definitely.
Do you like it a lot?
And not as much as other people.
Okay. So is that why you're not on OnlyFans? Yourself?
No, I don't have I an like it less. OnlyFans because I don't like sex as other people as much.
What if
and
you just showed your body a little bit?
The-
Because there's a good amount of girls that don't actually have sex on it; they just show their body.
I don't see myself that way. So I guess like for you to sexualize yourself, you need to first sexualize yourself, and then other people will sexualize yourself. So I don't see myself that way.
You don't sexualize yourself?
I'm a little bit more.
Is that a word?
Yes, it is.
Okay, just making sure.
Yes, yes.
It's a joke.
It could not be a word. I
Let's
make up
watch.
words all the time. So correct me.
I want to
please.
watch
Alright.
this. I think that this is it.
Pick up.
Let's go!
Guys, come on.
I want to watch the actual. I've heard about this interview and how she was.
Que
She
vengan
just
los
seemed like she was
rivales,
being a cunt.
porque nunca conocerán lo rico que es la victoria.
¡Gánala más, Queen! ¡Miau!
Échales candela a tus rivales con Matchmasters.
We are back 8:14 with Carson and Hoda's exclusive interview with Jada Pinkett Smith, and everyone's going to be talking about this.
Yeah, she is one half of Hollywood's most powerful couple. She's at the center of constant gossip and controversy, including that slap at the Oscars. She was sitting right next to Will Smith. And when we met up with Jada in her hometown of Baltimore to talk about her candid new memoir, Worthy, she opened up about an issue that has been kept secret until now.
There are so many surprising things in the book, but the thing that surprised me the most, that I actually had to reread it because I said, is this true?
Right.
Was that in 2016, you and Will decided that you were going to live completely separate lives. It was not a divorce on paper,
Right.
but it was a divorce.
Was that
So
before
from the year
her
2016,
and
which is 7
their
years ago
son's
now,
friend
y'all have been
had
apart.
had
Yeah.
sex?
But in public, the couple, who married in 1997, denied the gossip about their marriage. This interview on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen was taped a year after Will and Jada separated.
So how long have you guys been
That
together?
seems so weird.
23 years. Wow. That's amazing. How do you keep it hot?
How do I keep it hot? Maybe I don't know. I mean, I'm baffled, really.
Yeah, right.
Over the next several years, Jada and Will kept up the appearance of a committed married couple. They even faced a scandal when Jada had what she called an entanglement with a family friend. Neither let the public know they had already split.
So I guess my
That's
question
just so
is,
disgusting, bro.
I feel like you're a straight talker.
I am.
Your son's
Except you're not sometimes.
Yeah.
So why do that? Like, what was the reason?
I think just not being ready yet. Still trying to figure out between the two of us
Yeah.
how to be in partnership, right? And in regards to how do we present that to people, you know? And we hadn't figured that out.
During our walk in Baltimore, Jada reflected on their breakup. Why did the relationship fracture?
Oh, well, why it fractured, that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think by the time we got to 2016, we were just exhausted with trying. I think we were both kind of still stuck in our fantasy of what we thought the other person should be.
Jada says she considered a legal
why is
divorce,
she
but
bald
could
again?
never go through with it.
I made a promise that there will never be a reason for us to get a divorce. We will work through whatever. And I just haven't been able to break that promise.
But you still live separately.
We live separately.
I have so many questions.
So she had like an evil fucking smile on her face.
It was the strangest kind of revelation to realize that these two people have had separate lives. I mean, they have not called each other husband and wife in all of those years.
Except for the appearance everywhere they went.
Except for the appearances, right, including at the Oscars.
Yes.
By the way, there's a whole chunk in
seems
this
so
book that we're
weird
going to
to
get
me.
into in the Dateline special and also a little later here of what happened in that moment when he said, you know, get my wife's name out of your mouth, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
There's a whole backstory there, too. But Jada is candid and honest in this book. I mean, she's saying things that she's never said, so they've kind of been living this pretend life publicly.
For years.
They knew the secret. They know it.
So
They
now
haven't
she's
shared it.
telling everyone.
Yeah.
But they're still, they're not divorced.
Nope.
So they're
And they don't
separated.
plan on
I
it.
don't even
They don't plan on
understand.
getting divorced.
I think a lot of American families can
I
relate,
wonder
though.
if
I think
that's
there's
like
a lot more
a
distance
money
between
thing.
husbands and wives than anybody ever really talks about.
Yeah.
But this sounds like something.
Fine, then.
That's a bigger gulf.
Yeah, it's a bigger delta.
We have a lot more on this conversation. I was fascinated by her, by the way. First time I'd sat down and spoke with her for a long period of
Just
time.
watch this. Fucking Aben preaches video about this.
Watch me. Watch my first step turn to leaps and bounds. Watch me play carefree while the world goes round. Listen to me join in with every girl and boy. Screams of happiness, limitless joy.
Her candid new memoir, Worthy, she opened up about an issue that has been kept secret until now.
There are so many surprising things in the book, but the thing that surprised me the most, that I actually had to reread it because I said, is this true?
Right.
Was that in 2016, you and Will decided that you were going to live completely separate lives.
Yes.
It was not a divorce on paper,
Right.
but it was
Why'd she
a divorce.
say it like that?
So from the year 2016, which is 7 years ago now,
Yes.
y'all have been apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in public, the couple, who married in 1997, denied the gossip about their marriage. This interview on Bravo's Watch What Happens Live with Andy Cohen was taped a year after Will and Jada separated.
So how long have you guys been together?
23 years.
Wow. That's amazing. How do you keep it hot?
How do I keep it hot?
Fuck my son's best friend.
What
Fuck
the
my
fuck?
husband and imagine Tupac Shakur. Have my husband live out the fantasy of slapping men in front of me. Running the red table talk as if I had a real open discussion about my marriage and then being a fraud the whole time. That's hot.
Go in.
I don't know. I actually
go
gets
in.
around.
Go
Have you
in.
seen any of this?
No, but go in.
Over the next several years, Jada and Will kept up the appearance of a committed married couple. They even faced a scandal when Jada had what she called an entanglement with a family friend.
It's not the friend of the family.
An entanglement. It's
a
a
friend of
friend of her
That was
son.
your son. Okay? If I have a kid,
That would
the
be
kid's
so
friends
fucked up.
are not my friends. They're not friends of the family.
No.
The friends of my kid. You're gonna have a play date with Tommy? Tommy's not my friend.
I mean, they could be friends of the family. But
Tommy's not my friend.
You can't bang your son's friends.
Right.
No,
that's the
that's
real problem. I don't
fucking
care
disgusting.
because I
That's
know
just
some
so
families
wrong.
who take in their kids' friends as almost their own kids, their own family. Yeah, that's fine. You just can't bang them. I never thought I would have to say this, but I guess I do. As a parent, you can't bang your kids' friends. I mean, you can physically.
But like morally, it's fucking wrong.
Listen.
Hey, we hearing.
That is one way of getting out of the friend zone. I was friend of the family, now I'm banging the mom.
Sweet.
That's just truly being a part of the family. What
Yeah.
better way to ingratiate than make babies?
Oh, you part of this family? Yeah, I'm inside your mom.
That's wild, bro.
Neither let the public know they had already split.
So I guess my question is, I feel like you're a straight talker.
I am.
No, she's fucking not.
You and I decided we were going to take our space, and what happened?
Yeah, and then I got into an entanglement with
An entanglement?
August.
Mrs. Entanglement is a straight talker?
Disgusting.
Bro, is this a whole interview satire? Is this run by The Onion?
So why do that? Like, what was the reason?
I think just not being ready yet. Still trying to figure out between the two of us
Yeah.
how to be in partnership,
Why can't I
right?
attack them?
And in regards to how do we present that to people, you know? And we hadn't figured that out.
During our walk in Baltimore, Jada reflected on their breakup.
Why did the relationship fracture?
Oh, why it fractured, that's a lot of things.
Yeah.
And I think
All eyes on me. That's why.
I mean, people say that, but I doubt it. You think it's just another man?
No, it's not another man. It's her not fully being with Will. Not wanting that. She said it
She's
in the
a
first
fucking
place. She
hoe.
don't want that. And then after... Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Finish.
So she said that she didn't want that in the first place. I mean, she's a straight talker. I got to take her word, no? She said that, not me.
But she's not a straight talker. And irrespective of whatever, maybe she has feelings someone else. Where does the son's friend come in? Where does the public embarrassment come into all this stuff? She got a lot more problems than she's in love with somebody else. On the list of stuff that she doing, why it's not working, I highly doubt Tupac's at the top.
I didn't say that she was in love with someone else. She was just not in love with Will.
Okay, doesn't matter. Not in love with whatever it might be. You said Tupac's course, so that indicates it's somebody else.
Sure.
I'm just going off what you said.
But it's just like it's someone that's good. It's not. I wouldn't call it love because it's something that's really unattainable. You know what I mean? But it's holding that person to that unattainable standard that is dead on top of that. You know what I mean? I wish it would have been something else. I wonder. Yo, being next to it, I wonder what would happen if it's fucked up. You're not necessarily in love with the person, but that person is looking behind your mind. Let's put it that way.
Most people who get married or get in relationships have that what if with somebody else. That's not even necessarily always the issue. Because as you get into a relationship, you settle into the groove of it, that excitement, that thrill goes away. You think about that one person who just gave you that feeling before, and you put the roast in the classes. The issue with this lady, in watching her interviews or after anything happens, is what does she do to Will? I had an entanglement. She don't take accountability.
No.
She deflects blame. She puts it on other things. She obfuscates everything. At the top of the list of reasons why they're probably not together, somebody else is probably at the bottom. Because there's a lot of things you can work through.
Sure.
You know, the whole Tupac thing is a funny meme because of the fact that she said some things and they've danced and like, oh yeah, he's dead, whatever. And she said some weird shit.
What did she say about Tupac?
Late nights, steady hands, true aim.
Did she say that she would fuck
I'm not gonna
Tupac
lie.
or something?
The shit she said about Tupac, I'm a fan. She's something else. But me watching her behavior, I'm like, I would look at all of those things before the fact that she's in love with some dead man.
Concur.
Yeah, no.
Concur.
Me watching that Red Table Talk with her and Will, that's divorce to me.
Why would you broadcast that thing?
But it's just the things that she was saying during that interview.
by the time we got to 2016, we were just exhausted with trying. I think we were both kind of still stuck in our fantasy of what we thought the other person should be.
You know what it really sounds like every time she talks? She says we, but it feels like she. Someone's not tired of trying when they get up on stage and slap a man for disrespecting his wife who hasn't been with him for 6 years. That don't sound like somebody who's done with trying.
Yeah.
Does that sound like to you?
He seems like he's
somebody
still in
make
love
a joke
with her.
at an award show, you go up and
And
slap
he
that
says,
person? Does that sound
"Don't
like
talk
somebody
about
who's
my
giving up
wife."
on the marriage?
I think in that video,
in love with her.
When we covered that, I said that it just looked like a whole lot of. He's going through it.
Yeah.
He's going through it.
Yeah.
He's still calling her my wife when she's saying,
"Keep my wife's name out your
when you
fucking
say it
mouth."
like that. He was trying to gain power at that time. That's what it looked like. He's trying to. till he's losing grip on something. He was going through it. It all makes sense. And she's like, yeah, nah. He still didn't. He still didn't give up. But at some point, you gotta give it up. The person is disrespecting you all day, every day, and all night in the social media, in the media, going to talk about you. Stop. If you're over it, you're making mileage with the names, the dude's name.
Jada says she considered a legal divorce, but could never go through with it.
I made a promise that there will never be a reason for us to get a divorce. We will work through whatever. And I
doesn't fucking sound like you're trying to work through anything. Sounds like you just want to fuck other people and don't want to get a divorce.
Just haven't been able to break that promise.
But you still live separately.
We live separately.
It's weird. You still listen? Yeah, we live separately. It's
like
off.
Fucking
Here's what I think.
What do you think?
I think Will looks like a chump.
He does look like a chump, bro.
Will went from that man to like never want to be that man in my later years.
Say that again.
Will went from my younger years being that man to never want to be that man in my later years. I look at Will and he just looks so pathetic to me. And the fact that he went up on stage and slapped somebody over some lame joke, okay? Right?
Yeah, he seems
over
like
a woman
fucking
who ain't even
pussy.
really his. Fucking other dudes, disrespecting him all the time. Will just look like a chump. Look like a chump. That's all it comes down to.
I could have seen something happen like where there would be reconciliation, but after this, I'm putting myself in the shoes of Chris Rock, and I'm like,
I'm writing a new special.
You slapped me over what?
Yeah, Will slapped me over our wife.
Our wife.
Collective wife?
She for the streets now?
Fucking everybody's wife.
She been through this separation?
But you slapped me over what?
Our wife.
You slapped me over the fact that, you know what this is? This is whenever you go out with a girl and you go to the restaurant and her ex shows up and it's like, who's this dude? It's like, yo, my God, we've been broken up since like 2 years ago. Nah, man, you mine. No. You mine. That's how pathetic it is.
I don't. It's even worse than that. You know what it's like? It's like when you in a group of friends and somebody roasts you in that group of friends, but they too big, so you don't want to fight with them. So the next person that laughs, you start fighting them. They didn't make the joke, right? The one who really stabbed you was a person, but you can't fight with them. So you fight with somebody who laughs. Why?
Yeah.
Just because you don't want to adhere or deal with whatever. That's what it looked like.
You didn't. Yeah.
Because he can't beat up. He can't slap Jada.
You can't slap Jada. You can't throw hands with.
You can't slap Tupac.
You can't throw hands with August. You can't throw hands with. And he was intimidated by Tupac. That's what he said. His words. While he's talking about
what a clown.
Run quick, see. You're like getting jiggy with it. I know you're not gonna slap the man, right? So yeah. Again, that's crazy.
Clown.
But you said it the best. You said it the best. He went from.
Think about who he was when we were growing up.
Yeah.
He was in the coolest movies. He was doing songs that not everybody liked, but everybody still got jiggy with it. You get me? Right? People loved his character on Fresh Prince. They loved him in the movies of Bad Boy.
100%.
He had the body. He had everything. Everybody's looking at him. He had a pristine life in the background doing charity work. Everybody was looking at him like he's that dude. And come to find out, you look behind the curtains, and the dude is basically a cuck. He's Nico 2.0. That shit crazy to me.
It is.
So
it is.
How do I feel about the man? I don't know. I don't know what to say about this guy. It's just sad. As far as she goes, she's what she is.
That's great because
I know you don't understand why them kids are so weird. How can they not be?
Yeah,
you know what? I'm gonna say this too.
I'm
Willow
done after
and
this
Jaden,
video.
for the weird environment they had to grow up in, came out very
Bro, if
good.
this fucking person attacks me again, I'm gonna be pissed.
Will's oldest.
No.
Is not nowhere near that because that's not who he had.
Weirdo Central. But yeah, so we'll see when the full interview comes out. If there's anything more interesting, but that's all I got. Anything else you want to say?
I just wish that she shut the fuck up with that. Jada, stop talking.
She's trying to make some money.
I know she's trying to make some
Good for
some
her.
money.
Go get your money.
But it's like you did enough. It's cool.
No, absolutely not. She married a chump. She should make as much money off that chump. Good for her.
No.
So these chumps learn.
Stop.
Yeah. You know
No.
what? Put out a tell-all book. Say his dick game is weak. Say whatever you gotta say. so that anybody watching this never tolerate this kind of behavior again. I'm of the opposite mindset of Preach. I hope she destroys Will Smith. Yeah, don't half-ass it, because I don't ever want to see this kind of garbage again from any other individual. We'll throw him to the wolves at this point. That's how I feel.
I see what you're saying. I disagree, but I see what you're saying.
I think
but,
I'm gonna lose here.
Hey, he chose her.
I understand.
He made his bed. He got lie in it.
Jesus, right.
Hey.
Well, he doesn't lie in it. Everybody else is.
Well, I saw him slap Chris Rock. That's him lying in it.
I'm saying.
Yeah. I got you, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody's lying in it.
No, but he's lying in the bed, too. You just watch it. Can you watch that August come through his crib and be like, hey, you want something for breakfast? Like, nah, I just got done piping your wife. That's crazy. That's crazy.
'Twas just getting dark on Halloween night. Monsters and ghosts were out for a fright. You're the envy of the boulevard, and your awesome treats are a plus. Thanks to Halloween by Walgreens.
All right, so tomorrow I'm going to do a stream about my top 10 favorite books, and I'll probably do some other stuff that might not take that long. Probably only be like an hour or two, and then I'll